Okay, well, welcome to our West Perth council meeting tonight on the 5th of, or 6th rather, of February. Certainly glad to have you here. There must be something that is interesting everybody tonight, possibly maybe grants, if nothing else. So we look forward to getting to that part of the meeting. Before we start, we'll open, or before we open our meeting, we'll have a moment of reflection. And I think due to the circumstances, I think we'll try and remember the Minan family, and in particular, Art Minan's family. Certainly, we have an application to deal with that particular individual later on tonight, and it's unfortunate the way things have happened. So if we kind of remember the Minan family in our thoughts and prayers at this time, I think it would be appreciated. So. Okay. All right. We'll call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda then is confirmation of the agenda. Do we have a mover and seconder to confirm the agenda as it was mailed out? Councillor Rose and Councillor Phelps. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with the agenda as it was circulated? Okay. If you find you're getting into lukewarm water or hot water as we go along, you can always declare it at that time. The next item is the consent agenda, and we have a fairly large consent agenda. We have 16 items there. Is there anything there that anybody would like a little more clarification on or would like pulled and dealt with separately? Okay, I don't see anybody's hands up. So a motion that we accept the consent agenda would be in order. Moved by Councillor O'Donnell, seconded by Councillor Duck. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. So the next item that we have is a public meeting, and we do have a few of them here tonight, or a couple, actually a few planning matters. So at this time, we'll adjourn our council meeting at gotta see, where are we here? Oh, it's 7:03. For the purpose of a public meeting. The public meeting is being held in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act of 1990. And at this time, I'm going to ask Clerk Hobson for the purpose of the public meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this public meeting is to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments about a proposed amendment to Bylaw 100-1998, the zoning bylaw. Council will not make a decision at this public meeting, but rather will gather information and make a decision at a future regular council meeting. If any member of the public would like to be notified in writing of the decision made by council, they are to provide their name, mailing address to clerk@westperth.com this evening. A person or public body may appeal a decision if they have made an oral submission at this public meeting or written submission to council prior to the passing of the bylaw.
Okay, thanks, Dan. As was mentioned earlier, this is a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment. The application E1401 2023 was initiated by Grant and Laurie McDougall. The proposed amendment affects the property described as Part Lot 29, Concession 1, 6720 line 34 of the Logan Ward of the municipality of West Perth. Can the clerk please confirm that the notices were sent?
I can confirm notice was given by mail to all landowners within 120 meters of the lands affected by the proposed amendment and to those agencies as prescribed by legislation. A sign advertising tonight's meeting was also posted on the subject property on January 16th, 2023.
Okay, thanks again, Dan. I'll now call upon Susanna Reed, planner for the County of Perth, to review the application and present any correspondence received. So, Susanna, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mayor McKenzie. Good evening, Council. This is the location of the subject property of the McDougall property. It's on the north side of Highway 8 between Dublin and Mitchell. 6720 line 34. And this is an air photo of the severance application. So As the mayor has mentioned, this is a condition of consent file B43 of 22, which is a Southwest Farm dwelling severance application. One of the conditions of the consent is to rezone both the severed parcel to permit a house that's not accessory to agriculture and the retained land to restrict the construction of a house on that property. So the air photo on the screen now shows the outlined in yellow is the severed parcel, and then outlined in red is the retained land. This is a photo of the McDougall residence, and you can sort of see in the background that there is that the barn is being taken down. You can't really see it in this photo, but there was a backhoe at the site when I was there taking down the barn, which is also one of the conditions of consent. So the property is designated agricultural in the official plan. This is the zoning map that shows the retained parcel to be rezoned to an A-3 zone, sorry, an A-1 zone, and the separate parcel to be rezoned to an A-3 zone. So the property is designated agricultural in the county official plan. The severance policies were reviewed with the severance application, and the severance conforms with the Perth County official plan. There are proposed to be 2 special zones for the severed parcel, a reduced side yard setback from an existing shed, and for the retained parcel, a reduced lot area. As this is a public meeting, the Planning Department's recommendation is to receive any comments from the public, and there's no recommendations on the file tonight.
Okay, thanks, Susanna. So at this time, we get into the public aspect of the meeting, and I will ask if the applicant or their agent has anything to add at this time. And I know I haven't seen the applicant here, and I don't know if there's an agent here. I don't see one. Is anybody here in support of this application that wishes to speak? Okay, is there anybody in opposition to this application that wishes to speak at this time? Any general comments or questions from council? Oh, we're moving along quite well here. Okay, then as Susanna said, there will be no decisions made at this particular time. So we're going to move on to the next one, which is the zoning bylaw amendment, ZBA 0422. And this is a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment. The application D1404-2022 was initiated by Reg Reed. The proposed amendment affects the property described as part lot 12 and 13, West Mitchell Road, Fullerton Ward, municipality of West Perth. And again, I will ask the clerk to please confirm that the notices were sent.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can confirm notice was given by mail to all landowners within 120 meters of the land affected by the proposed amendment, and that those agencies prescribed by legislation. A sign advertising tonight's meeting was posted on the subject property on January 16th, 2023.
Okay, thanks, Dan. So at this time, I will call upon John Bice, planner for the County of Perth, to review the application and present any correspondence received. So, John, I'll let you have the floor.
Thank you, Hannah. All right, so the property is located, as you can see, at the red star. We're just south of Fullerton and just east of Russellville, and we're located in the Fullerton ward. So the subject property is designated primary and secondary aggregate resource, floodplain, and earth science ANSI in the Perth County official plan. It's also zoned agriculture 2, A2, and floodplain in the West Perth zone bylaw. Just a explanatory note here, the A2 zone, it applies to potential sand and gravel deposits identified in the Perth County official. The owner is applying for a Perth County official plan amendment that I will speak to later on this evening, as well as a municipality of West Perth zoning bylaw amendment. So the application proposes to change the zoning on the subject lands from A2, that agriculture 2 zone, to an A1 agriculture 1 zone. The A2 again is reserved for potential aggregate deposits and sand deposits, while the A1 zone is an agricultural zone that permits a dwelling that is not secondary to an agricultural operation. The A1 zone is sought by the owner as no agricultural operation is proposed on the 1.75 hectare or about 4.3 acre lot, and they propose to construct a dwelling. So you can see through this image here, this is the site plan that was submitted, the site sketch, sorry, and the proposed dwelling would be located along the south, the north, northeastern portion of the property, northwestern. So the current aggregate designation does not align with the proposed zoning, as it is intended to limit the development of sensitive land uses in favor of aggregate extraction opportunities. It has, however, been sufficiently demonstrated that the aggregate potential of the site is nil and that the designation could change to agriculture. And that is more to be spoken to at the official plan section later this evening. As this designation change is currently being contemplated and processed by Perth County, this zoning bylaw information presentation will focus on reviewing the proposed ZBA from the perspective of an agricultural designation on the subject. So since the owner has indicated that he wishes to pursue a dwelling that will not be associated with an agricultural operation, they'll need to meet or satisfy the requirements in the Perth County Official Plan, Section 5.5.15, which is the existing lots of record section. A little bit of text here, sorry, not many visual cues, but I just wanted to kind of give a general highlight of that specific section that I just referenced and the specific components of it. So as we can read here, the proponent must satisfy the local municipal council that farming or other permitted uses are not possible, but it also says or practical on the subject existing lot of record. The owner has submitted a planning merit letter, and this was produced by an RPP accredited planner, Ron Davidson, from Ron Davidson Planning Consultants. So while the planning merit letter lacks consideration for agricultural opportunities of varying types and sizes and intensities, it acknowledges that the property is deficient in area for any sort of large scale livestock operation, as well as agriculture that's directly adjacent to the settlement area of Fullerton, and it presents concerns regarding that for compatibility. So section B talks about suitable for the lot, suitability and the construction of the dwelling. And it's considered that the lot placement, it would meet the zoning, it has the potential to meet the zoning bylaw requirements and is considered suitable. With regard to section C here, the owner has submitted MDS calculations and MDS 1 is considered met. And then down there, letter D there, the location of the single detached dwelling isn't supposed to preclude any sort of use of the balance of the existing undersized lot for agricultural purposes. And what this really essentially means is that the location of the dwelling shouldn't reduce the need or the opportunity for future farming uses if another owner were to come along and potentially farm the property. And that is considered met here. Okay. So I just wanted to go over really briefly these studies that were submitted for both OPA 211 and the zoning bylaw amendment for us today. Minimum distance separation calculation, a stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessments, an aggregate impact assessment, and that planning merit letter. And this image is of the proposed location of the dwelling. You can see the neighboring dwelling just in the distance there. So there was a few correspondence received, sorry, one from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority and one from Enbridge Gas. The UTRCA essentially has indicated that there are no objections from their standpoint. And Enbridge Gas has indicated that they would like some further information. They've also indicated service relocation may be required, and that they wish the owner contact them prior to construction, as there's some lines nearby. And that concludes presentation. I can take any questions from staff, or sorry, from council members or members of the public. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, John. We'll just get you to maybe just wait there for a second and see where we go from here. So at this time, I'll ask if the applicant or their agent has any comments to make at this time. I know Reg is in the audience. If he wishes to add anything, he's more than welcome to. Okay, we'll move on. Is there anybody else in support of this application who wishes to speak? Is there anybody opposed to this application that wishes to speak at this time? All right. Any general comments, or finally any questions from council with regards to this property? All right, so we're moving along quite nicely. All right, we're going into the third zoning bylaw amendment. And again, it's a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment. The application D1417 2022 was initiated by B&T Ag Limited. The proposed amendment affects the property described as Lot 10, Concession 5 of the Fullerton Ward of the municipality of West Perth, 5379, line 29. And I will ask our clerk at this time to confirm that the notices were sent out.
I can confirm notice was given by mail to all landowners within 120 meters of the lands affected by the proposed amendment and to those agencies as prescribed by legislation. The sign advertising tonight's meeting was also posted on the subject property on January 16th, 2023.
All right, thanks, Dan. I'll now call upon John Weiss again, planner for the County of Perth, to review the application and present any correspondence received. John?
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and council, members of the public. This zoning bylaw amendment is a condition of consent, as the mayor has previously indicated. The property is located at the Red Star, as you can see on the slide. It's south of Mitchell, and it's east of Fullerton. The subject property is designated agricultural in the Perth County Official Plan, and it's also zoned agriculture in the West Perth zoning bylaw. Okay, so the land's in red, as you see here, 41.25 hectares or 101.9 acres. They're the retained lands of that previously indicated severance, and they're proposed to change from A to A3. And the lands in yellow, about 0.77 acres, are the severed portions, and they're proposed to change from A to A1. So the zoning bylaw amendment conforms with the Perth County Official Plan, and it conforms with all provisions of the West Perth zoning bylaw. The chief building official visited the property and the dwelling on June 13th, 2022, and he confirmed that the residence is habitable. And again, we received some comments from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, who have indicated that there are no objections. I can take any questions with this one as well.
Okay, thanks, John. Okay, I don't believe there's anybody here, either an applicant or agent, that I'm aware of. Is there anybody else in attendance that wishes to speak in support of this application? Is there anybody who is opposed to this application that wishes to speak at this time? Is there any general comments or questions from council? Okay, seeing none, then we will move on. I just have one quick question here for Dan that I missed earlier on. We have one more zoning bylaw amendment, or a bylaw amendment here. So we don't want to close the meeting right now, do we? Okay, all right. So we have one more zoning bylaw amendment, zoning bylaw amendment 1922, which is Benaway's. And so this is a public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment. The application D1419 2022 was initiated by Perry and Kathy Benaway's. The proposed amendment affects the property described as Part Lot 18, Concession 1 of the Logan Ward Municipality of West Perth, and the address is 83 Huron Road. Can our clerk please confirm that the notices were sent?
I can confirm notice was given by mail to all landowners within 120 meters of the lands affected by the proposed amendment and to those agencies as prescribed by legislation. The sign advertising tonight's meeting was posted on the subject property on January 16th, 2023.
Okay, thanks, Dan. And I'll call upon John Bice again, planner for the County of Perth, to review the application and present any correspondence received.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and council again. So this zoning bylaw amendment we're speaking of today is for public meeting only, and there again will be no recommendation as the mayor and Dan have previously said. So the location of these lands are just north of Huron Road, just along the eastern or the western side of Mitchell there. The lands are designated in the Mitchell official plan as residential, and they are zoned low density zone 1 R1 and future development in the West Perth zoning bylaw. They are proposed to be redeveloped into an 8-unit street townhouses. So the applicants are applying to satisfy the conditions of consent B34-20. Which was provisionally approved on November 1st, 2022. This consent requires that an amendment to the municipality of West Perth zoning bylaw has been adopted, and to zone the proposed severed lot to Mitchell residential high density R4. This image was taken in the summertime, essentially of the new Wimpole Street there, where the proposed dwelling or the proposed townhouse dwellings would go. And that would be on the left side of the image or the north side of Wimpole Street. So rezoning the severed lot to that R4 zone would permit the proposed use for townhouse development. Considering the goals of the PPS, provincial policy statement, and the Perth County and Mitchell official plan regarding housing, the R4 zone will allow the site to be developed to a higher density. The R4 zone is appropriate given the development occurring on the other side of Wimpole Street there. That would be the south side, where a large portion is also within the R4 zone. The consent B34-20 left a sliver of land of approximately 0.6 acres. You can see it just above the proposal there, with the retained portion behind the proposed new lot where the townhouse units will be developed. And this sliver is to remain in the future development zone in order to safeguard any sort of future opportunities for development in the future. Staff considered the consent prior to the issuance of Bill 23. Staff were under the assumption prior to Bill 23's issuance that all matters pertaining to stormwater management and drainage would occur through the site plan process. Due to the legislative changes by Bill 23 that came into effect November 28, 2022, the municipality can no longer require site plan for this 8-unit townhouse development. As of this, the municipal engineer has requested a lot grading and drainage plan for the proposed townhouse development. At the time of writing this report and presenting this here today, staff have not received the lot grading and drainage plan. The CBO for West Perth has also indicated that the lot grading and drainage plan will be needed prior to the issuance of a building permit. So this picture, this image was taken of the existing Eleanor Street townhouse development, just to the south of the subject lands here today. And the builder has developed this townhouse development over on Eleanor Street and is looking to use the same kind of concept site plans for this proposal. Notice of public meeting was given, and the department has received no comments from any members. Thank you very much. I'll take any questions.
Okay, thanks, John. I guess and I'm not sure what was happening with the application we're dealing with tonight, but certainly the houses or the units that you showed there on Eleanor Street, they're all rental units, which is something that is certainly needed in our community as well. Okay, at this time then, I know Trevor's here and is acting as agent. I don't know, do you have anything further to add, Trevor? Good, okay. All right. Is there anybody else here that wishes to speak in support of the application? Is there anybody here that wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Is there any general comments or questions from members of council? Okay. Oops, sorry, Deputy Mayor Tinkowski.
Thank you, through you, your worship. So I guess I have a question about the site grading report requested by the municipal engineer. And it's stated by the planner that that's a condition of issuing the building permit. So the proponent of the project or the agent, what are their comments? Like the grading report hasn't been received yet. So I was just curious to see what the agent's comments were in that regard, if I may.
Do you want to come up to the mic here, Trevor?
Sure, I can answer that. The requirement kind of took us a little off step, because normally that's part of the building permit process and not required at the time of zoning. But since we've been aware early in this new year that it's going to be required, we've been out and took elevations on the site and are working on the grade plan as we speak right now to get that finalized. But typically, yes, that is required as part of the building permit and not usually required to get the zoning approved.
Okay, so I wanted to confirm that you will be making a submission to the building department at some point as
Yes.
part of the building permit process. Okay, good, thank you.
Any other questions from members of council? Okay, then I would like to thank those in attendance for their comments this evening. Should council proceed with the adoption of a zoning bylaw amendment, the notice of passing will be provided as prescribed by the Planning Act, and a 20-day appeal period to the Ontario Land Tribunal will be in effect. So I want to thank John for coming and also for Susanna for the first application. So we will now adjourn our public meeting at 7:30, right on the dot. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Phelps, Councillor Harold, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Now, we do have a couple resolutions coming out of this public meeting. The first resolution is with regards to the McDougall application. And the resolution is that the Council of Municipality of West Perth received a report titled Zoning Bylaw Amendment 1-2023 affecting lands described as part of Lot 29 Concession 1, 6720 Line 34 Logan Ward, sorry, Municipality of West Perth, and that council received the written comments regarding this application for information. We have a mover and seconder for that, Councillor O'Donnell and Councillor Chessel. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. The next one is a resolution with regards to the Reed application, and it's that the Council of Municipality of West Perth received the report entitled Perth County Zoning Bylaw Amendment ZBA 0422, affecting lands described as part lots 12 and 13, concession West Mitchell Road, reference plan 44R 3428, part 1, Fullerton Ward, Municipality of West Perth, and the council received the public comments regarding this application for information. And the, we need a motion for that? There was no comments from anybody. Okay. So you want a resolution? Okay, so we need a mover and seconder for that. Moved by Councilor Rose, second by Deputy Mayor Jankowski. The next one is a resolution with regards to B&T Ag Limited, and that the Council of Municipality of West Perth received a report entitled ZBA 17, 2022, affecting lands described as Lot 10, Concession 5, Fullerton Ward, Municipality of West Perth. And we stop there. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Foster, Councillor Duck, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Turn the page over. That's it. We're done. Oh, we got one more. Oh, Benoways. Why don't I have that? I missed it. I don't have, it's not there. There we go. Okay, I do have it. The next resolution is that the Council of Municipality of West Perth received a report titled Zoning Bylaw Amendment ZBA 19, 2022, affecting lands described as Concession 1, Lot 18, 83 Huron Road, Mitchell Ward, Municipality of West Perth. And I think that's as far as we have to go there too. Do we have a mover and seconder for that one? Councillor Foster and Councillor Phelps. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. So, thank you. Get my papers in order here now. And we're done. Fine. Yeah, okay. Okay, it brings us down to agenda item 5.5, which is a delegation here from MPAC, Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. And Jeremy Gow is here, account manager for municipal and stakeholder relations. And I'm sure that's why all these people are here tonight, Jerry, is to hear you.
There we go. Try that again. One more time, we'll try this. So through the mayor to council, thank you very much for having me here this evening. I'll start out by giving you a little bit of information about myself. My name is Jeremy Goff. I'm your account manager in municipal and stakeholder relations at MPAC. I'd like to congratulate all of you on your election wins, and I do look forward to working with you throughout 2023 and beyond. Whether you are a newly elected official or a seasoned veteran in that area, please know that we are here to help and have a whole municipal and stakeholder relations team who can answer any questions you may have. To start, municipal relationships are a priority at MPAC. And because of that, we want to continue to focus on elevating the municipal and property owner experience. Today, I'll be sharing with you who MPAC is and the role that we play in property assessment. So at MPAC, we are Ontario's property experts. Our job is to assess and classify more than 5.5 million properties across Ontario worth a combined total of $3 trillion. In the past year, Ontario has grown by approximately 45,000 new residential homes. And in 2022, we added more than 37 billion to Ontario's assessment rolls. Every municipality uses our assessments to make informed decisions about their community, including the distribution of property taxes. Ontario's property tax system and these assessments generate approximately 30 billion in tax revenue annually. West Perth saw over $23 million in new assessment added in 2022 and currently has over $3.1 billion in total property value. And we're going to be taking a better look at those figures in your assessment base in just a few slides. So there are 4 players in Ontario's property assessment and taxation system. All have a different role and interest in the process. The provincial government, specifically the Ministry of Finance, is responsible for setting assessment and taxation legislation as well as policies. They also determine the education and property tax rate. There is also an independent body that adjudicates appeals of MPAC's assessed values, the ARB. This also falls under the jurisdiction of the province. MPAC, who is an independent, not-for-profit corporation funded by all Ontario municipalities. Our role is to accurately assess and classify all properties in Ontario. We do this in compliance with the Assessment Act and regulations as set by the Government of Ontario. We are accountable to the province, municipalities, and property taxpayers of Ontario through a board of directors that is comprised of provincial, municipal, and taxpayer representatives appointed by the Minister of Finance. Next up is municipalities. They determine their budget requirements, set tax rates, and collect property taxes to pay for municipal services such as police, fire, roads, recreation, water, among many others. Municipalities use MPAC's assessments and established tax rates to distribute their tax requirements to ratepayers. And finally, the property owners who pay the property tax bill and help set market value through ongoing property purchases and sales. So as you can imagine, maintaining Ontario's property database is very important. Property data is continuously updated so that municipal records are accurate when our municipal stakeholders are making important tax decisions. Maintaining Ontario's property database includes inspecting and assessing new construction, additions, and renovations promptly, responding to property owner inquiries, and working to help them understand their property assessment. Supporting municipalities. We do this by offering Municipal Connect, where your municipal staff members can obtain the primary sources of assessment-related information they require day to day. Working collaboratively on projects that are important to our municipal partners, such as digital building permitting or e-permitting. Processing tax applications, approved land severances, and consolidations. We also have important statutory duties, such as handling requests for reconsiderations and maintaining people data by tracking school support for over 5.5 million properties. Monitoring the market and assessing newly built and renovated properties are things we do every day to keep our property data current. We also periodically update every single property assessment in Ontario based on the same legislated valuation date. We call this an assessment update or a reassessment. The valuation date for the most recent assessment update, which took effect in 2017, was January the 1st, 2016. This is when we determine what every single property in Ontario could have reasonably sold for in its current state and condition at a particular point in time. Regular reevaluation of properties ensures that assessments stay up to date and similar properties of similar value in the same municipality pay similar property taxes. Provincial legislation determines when MPAC is to conduct a province-wide assessment update. The province sets the valuation date and determines the update cycle. The province-wide reassessment that was scheduled to occur in 2020 was postponed by the provincial government to provide stability and certainty to Ontarians and to enable municipalities to focus on responding to the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, property assessments continue to be based on a legislated valuation date of January the 1st, 2016. This should not have a negative financial impact on municipalities, as MPAC continues to maintain and update the assessment roll each year to reflect changes such as new construction and improvements to properties that occur each year. For new buildings or structures, MPAC determines a valuation as of January the 1st, 2016 to ensure equity when comparing to other existing properties. While MPAC awaits an announcement from the provincial government about the next province-wide assessment update, January 1st, 2016 continues to be Ontario's legislated valuation date. As noted earlier, this is a fixed date to which all properties are valued. Although the assessment update does remain paused, our work continues to keep property data up and up to date. Property owners will still receive an updated property assessment notice from MPAC if there are changes to their properties that occur in a year. In November, MPAC sent out almost 800,000 notices to reflect changes to properties throughout the province. Once the province announces when the next assessment update will take place and what that valuation date will be, we will absolutely be letting you know and can focus on having meaningful conversations as we work to finalize assessed values within the West Perth community. Ontario's property tax system is based on everyone paying their portion of what it costs to deliver community services. To do this, all properties are assigned a value as of a common valuation date, as noted in the previous slide. This is a principle called current value assessment. This is the price a property might reasonably be expected to sell for if sold by a willing seller to a willing buyer after an appropriate time and exposure on the open market. So let's briefly talk about valuation. In Ontario, there are 3 industry-wide standardized approaches to valuing property. The first of these is the direct comparison approach, and this valuation approach is used primarily for residential properties, condos, and vacant land. With this approach, we analyze recent sales of comparable properties that were sold for a similar or identical use as the property being valued to provide an indication of value. It is also important that only valid open market transactions are used in this analysis, meaning sales between related parties and forced sales, for example, are not included in the analysis. When looking at the valuation of a residential home, although our analysis tool considers over 200 factors, there are 5 key factors that affect your property value. The location of your property, your home's neighborhood and market area affect what others would be willing to pay for it if you were to sell it. Neighborhoods are dynamic, and we regularly review and update our information to reflect changes that impact a neighborhood, such as municipal zoning changes or emerging developments. The size of your lot. We calculate the area of your lot by multiplying the frontage by the depth. We take these measurements from the property's legal description in the parcel registry office. If a property has an irregular shape, we calculate out an effective frontage and depth. Next up is quality of construction, and this can range from 1 being the lowest to 10, which describes the highest degree of quality. The total square footage of a living area based on exterior measurements of the total area, as well as finally the age of the buildings on your property. The value of your property is influenced by the age of your house or any other structures. This can be adjusted based on any major renovations or additions or changes that occur to that structure. Next up is the income approach. This is used for industrial malls, multi-residential properties, office buildings, and shopping centers. In income-producing properties, the ability to earn revenue is directly tied to current value. To value these properties, we need to determine how much revenue it could generate. To clarify, it is not the revenue being generated by the occupant, but rather the rent that the occupant is paying to the landlord that we use to value properties using the income approach. This method requires a detailed analysis of the income and expenses, both for the property being valued and other similar properties, to determine how much income a property could be expected to generate if sold on the open market. Those 2 factors create a capitalization rate that helps us determine the property's assessed value. Finally, the cost approach, and this is typically used for general purpose industrial properties, small retail, and warehousing, just to name a few. This approach is used when a property type is unique and less commonly sold on the open market, as we cannot rely on either the direct comparison or the income approaches to determine current value due to lack of data. The cost approach is a three-step process. First, we calculate the cost of replacing buildings, structures, or other accessible fixtures on the land. Then we apply a deduction for depreciation on all structures due to age, as well as any functional or economic adjustment if there are conditions impacting the value of that property. Finally, we determine the valuation of the land and add it to the building calculations to produce an overall valuation. So what draws our attention to a property? It's typically one of a few things: a market sale, a request from our municipal partners or a property owner, building permit activity, an RFR, or an appeal. MPAC's role is to take building permits and plans and turn them into assessment. Our municipal stakeholders rely on MPAC's assessment to levy property tax. The sooner MPAC can deliver assessment, the sooner our municipal stakeholders can realize new potential revenue. Every year, MPAC processes on average 300,000 building permits for new development or renovations. We are the only organization with a data set of all building permits in Ontario, and our understanding of this data gives us a unique perspective on ways to modernize its collection in exchange and to support our municipal partners. So just an interesting fact that you may not know, condos are getting smaller and detached homes are in fact getting larger. Ontario condominiums are 35% smaller on average than they were 25 years ago, while the average detached home is 25% larger. In the 1990s, the average condominium in Ontario peaked at approximately 1,100 square feet. The most recent MPAC data shows that the average condo today is about 700 square feet. In comparison, single-family detached homes were approximately 2,000 square feet in the mid-90s, and today a typical single-family home is around 2,500 square feet. So after we assess a property or change an assessment, we do always mail a property owner a property assessment notice. Sometimes property owners do not agree with their assessed value. A property owner may approach you as an elected official with concerns or disagree with their assessment. What is important to remember is that property assessment is not taxation. If you do get an inquiry from a property owner, a few questions you could ask them to help is if they could sell their property on January 1st, 2016 for their current assessed value. If they visited About My Property to review the information MPAC has on file to ensure that it is in fact correct. If they've used About My Property to conduct a review of comparable properties to their own in their own community. If a property owner disagrees with their assessment, they have the option to file a request for reconsideration, or RFR as commonly referred to, and we will review that completely free of charge. There is also an ability to file an appeal to the Assessment Review Board, or ARB, as mentioned previously. The fastest way to start a review is by filing an RFR on About My Property. Property owners can also file on the mpac.ca website. So let's spend just a brief moment to address the relationship between property tax and assessment. Assessments distribute taxes, they do not determine the taxes paid. When a province-wide assessment update occurs, the most important factor is not how much the assessed value of a property has changed, but rather how the assessed value has changed relative to the average change in the class in that community. This concept is explained in a recent MPAC toolkit that we shared out with our municipal partners. In anticipation of the next province-wide reassessment, we have implemented a strategy to address misconceptions about the relationship between assessed value and taxation. This includes resources for municipalities that ensure when an announcement is made by the province, we're ready to support you as needed. This digital toolkit is also available on mpac.ca and can help municipalities, along with elected officials, mitigate misinformation and provide support and resources to educate and inform property owners. In the digital toolkit, you can find a new video on how your property taxes are calculated based on the assessed value of your home. So we won't watch the video today, but there's a link to this directly in it, and I believe you've been shared this presentation as well. The video is also available on MPAC's YouTube page, so I would encourage you to take a look at that if you haven't. It's just shy of 3 minutes in length, and it really helps explain the concept and the relationship between assessment and taxation. So I'd encourage you to take a watch of that and possibly share it out on your own social media as well. So next up here is a look at your local assessment base in West Perth. So the greatest share of what you're seeing here is showing that the farm category obviously holds your greatest share proportion of value within your assessment base. That equates to $2.2 billion of assessment, equaling 73% of West Perth's total assessment base. Next up on there is residential properties, $665 million worth of value associated with that, coming in at 21% of your base, followed by commercial properties, $62 million, 2% of your base, industrial properties, $61 million, less than 2% of your base at 1.97%. Special and exempt properties are next, $28 million of assessment associated with that, less than 1%. And then finally, multi-residential properties coming in at just over $7 million and under 0.25% of your total base, for a total of $3,110 million in West Perth's current assessment base. So as I wrap up, I'd like to thank you for having me here today and remind you that we do want to stay connected. If not already, please do make sure you subscribe to In Touch, MPAC's monthly municipal e-newsletter, which can be done through the mpac.ca website. We also have a digital library of resources that are available to you there at any time that you can utilize. Be sure to reach out to myself anytime if you have questions or are looking for resources that you can share out. I'd be happy to set you up with those at any time. And I'll wrap up by sharing my contact information along with our regional manager, Ann Haynes. I believe some of you had the opportunity to meet Ann at the recent Roma conference and attended our lunch and learn session that we put on there. So thank you for participating in that. If you did take that in, we will be at a number of conferences going forward as well. So stop by our booth, have a chat with us. We're always happy to have a conversation with our elected officials. And that kind of wraps up the content I'll be covering today. So I will pass it back over to Mayor McKenzie. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to entertain those as well.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy. Questions from council? Alex?
Is there any idea when the province will issue the next reassessment date?
That is a great question. And that is a question I've gotten from every single council I've been to. And the answer to that is no, unfortunately. MPAC knows what you know right now, that right now we continue to be based on a January 1st, 2016 valuation date for the 2023 taxation year. And that is unfortunately all we know at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from council? Councillor Fink, go ahead.
You had some historical comparisons of condos as an example, maybe not so typical for our rural municipality like you showed. Would you have some similar statistics for the farm usage and land that you could provide?
Yeah, in terms of shifting, like if you're talking about shifting in
Sizes, like when in this case you compared the condo sizes over the last number of years, and could you do the same thing for farm and ag in
I'm
Ontario?
sure that would be data that we would have available. It's not data I have with me tonight. If there was something specific you were looking for, if you wanted to know land size, building size, something of that nature, feel free to reach out and I can try and dig in a little deeper for you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? And I have a question. That's maybe not a fair question, but it's a topic that tends to come up, and I guess it depends again whenever the reassessment happens. But there's a feeling, I think, in the rural municipality amongst the agricultural folks that the farmers are paying way more than what they should. Their assessment's too high compared to the residents. But the residential homes have increased as well over that period of time. And I think right now we're maybe into a situation where agricultural land has kind of tapered off or maybe even dropped a little bit. Any comment, like if we were doing a reassessment, say January the 1st, 2024, what would be the net result?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question and it has come up before. Unfortunately, we don't know if the province is going to opt to phase in values. We don't know what year they'll select when they do call an assessment update. Will it be 2023, it'll be 2024, and what our factors will be. How long will that be phased in if it is phased in? So there's still so much uncertainty around when that will happen that we don't have those figures available yet for shifts. And as I said in my presentation, when we do know when that assessment update will happen, we'll certainly be happy to come back out to council and give you an idea on what those shifts will look like for that new base year when it is announced.
Okay, thank. The other concern that I have, and again, it's more with the residents or the residents in our area, West Perth. The fact that you can build $1 million house right now, and it's valued at whatever it would cost for that house in 2016. And we all know what's happened with the, the price of building materials over that period of time. And so your assessment's based on building materials being probably a third to a half less than what they are now. And there's going to be a day of reckoning, isn't there?
We're waiting for that announcement from the province. And when it comes, we will share that message. I don't think it's any surprise to council that costs have substantially gone up. And that's something that we will certainly have more messaging on when we know what that base year will be.
Okay. Was there a question over here? Oh, Deputy Mayor Trnkowski.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Jeremy, can you comment on efforts that MPAC are making with municipalities in terms of updating information, such as where the assessment of a property has changed, either because it's changed from a vacant lot to a built lot, or if it's changed from an existing dwelling to a revitalized or an improved dwelling. There's that exchange of information that has to happen between MPAC and the municipality, and sometimes there's a lag in getting that information shared with the municipality. Could you comment on that, please?
Yeah, I would comment that one of the big improvements we've certainly seen over the last few years are enhancements to the permitting process. So with permits becoming digitized and municipalities opting to, for example, participate and utilize cloud permitting software with their building department, it certainly streamlines that process and it helps MPAC get that information in a much more effective and timely fashion. So if a property, for instance, was formerly vacant land and is now built on, a building permit has been taken out, Cloud Permit sends us that permit information essentially the same time that the building department receives it at the municipality. It also allows us to receive things such as the municipal occupancy date or final date when issued by the building department. And that allows us to focus on what we know is in fact done and ready to be assessed as of the time that the municipality has granted that occupancy. Previously, you may have to visit a property multiple times to determine on where it's at status-wise within that completion process. So enhancements to the permitting process, specifically in West Perth, have absolutely played a factor in allowing us to capture the new assessment that we have in here and will be continuing to capture going into 2023 as well.
Good. Thank you.
Last call. Oh, sorry, Councillor Vink.
Yeah, thanks, Walter. And I'm not sure who to ask this question to, so maybe I'll ask it to you first. When a property changes hands and the property changes category, does MPAC play a role in that? And then we see sometimes that it is a number of years later that we have then to write off some taxes because of how the property wasn't classified correctly. Is that some sort of connection between West Perth and MPAC?
I would look to Wendy if she has any comment on it. Just the wrong.
People, actually, it's probably an impact question as much as anything.
Just for clarification, are you referring to when it goes from residential to farm and then farm back? So yeah, there is a process that it has to go through AgriCorp and then MPAC. And then the landowner is also in there. They have to fill out the paperwork. If they don't fill out the paperwork, nothing changes. So I don't know if Jeremy wants to add anything to that.
Yeah, so I think you're referring to the farm tax rate on farm properties. So the FT program is a tax incentive program that's administered by AgriCorp. It's not administered by MPAC. MPAC does apply that FT tax classification, but only when we receive notification from AgriCorp. So that is something that has come up in other municipalities where they've noticed a flipping in and out of that program. But it's something that AgriCorp would maybe be best served to answer any questions you have about.
I think in a lot of cases, it's a case where the forms were set out and the owner, just ignored it or didn't fill them out, and then it automatically reverts to residential. And, normal farm is 25% and residential is 100%. So there's quite a difference in taxes and quite an impact on the municipality for the amount of money that you're budgeting to get in. So, yeah. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much, Jeremy. It's very informative. Appreciate you coming and updating us. Okay, we're moving on here. We're coming along not too bad tonight. Our next item is delegations with regards to community grants. And we have 9 organizations that are here tonight. So we'll go through them, state what you would like, how much you would like, and kind of what you're doing with it. And then I'll ask at each presentation if there's any questions from members of council here. So the first delegation is the Association of Mitchell Minor Sports, and I believe Laurie Chessel is here to make that presentation. Somebody has to be first, Laurie.
Okay, so I'm here representing Mitchell Minor Sports. I'm the treasurer. Our request for funds is for $8,500 this year. Typically, our request is about $3,000 every year. It's a little bit higher this year as we have to. We're required to get a review engagement from an accountant, and that is a requirement of the newly legislated Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations Act that came into effect. It was October of last year. So a review engagement is significantly more expensive than in the past. We would get what is it called? I think a notice to reader. And so a notice to reader is just a less involved review. That's the significant increase year over year. The other portion of funds that we request go towards organizational fees such as insurance, website maintenance and licenses, subsidies for families requiring support to pay for registration, and any other organizational costs.
And this is probably what you're indicating there. Your accounting or your books were audited by our auditor in the past, weren't they?
Yes, correct.
And so that's not allowed anymore.
It was a notice to reader that was completed by BDO, who happened to be West Perth's auditor as well. And so I think in the upcoming year, the auditor has changed. Our requirements have changed in terms of what we need. So that is the reason for the additional request.
Yeah, I would just add to it that we had no written agreement through administration standpoint, so we felt it was best to recommend to Mitchell Minor Sports to come forward to council, and we can get everything just out in the open and above board. If I understand correctly, Wendy's already spoke to our auditors about this cost being included within our auditing, or it may have a small. Last I was told, it may have a small impact to us. Wendy's shaking her head no, so that would be all I have to add.
All right, questions from members of council? No? Okay, you did a good job,
If I
Laurie.
may,
Thanks.
Walter, could you just clarify that we'll absorb the extra auditing fees for Mitchell Minor Sports and it doesn't need to be included in their ask? Is that what we're saying?
I see Wendy's just walking up here, so I'll just play her
It's probably a budget
entrance-
question. though.
entrance theme song.
It
for-
will impact when it comes to finalizing the budget.
So when we did an RFP out for our audit, it wasn't included. And I think the standard for the financial statements has changed. And so it is, I think before it was like $2,500. And I think it's closer now to 5.
Good.
But we don't have a quote on that.
All right.
To get- Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Lori. Next up, we have Robert Benoist from the Broadhaven Chamber of Commerce. Robert?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor McKenzie and Council. Yeah, we have 3-part ask, I guess, tonight. The first one is our annual donation that the municipality would give us $3,500 for lawn mowing and snow blowing and groundskeeping. We'd like that to continue if possible. And we had an emergency repair of our 10-ton geothermal unit. It with a cost of $4,240.28, and HST is not included in that figure. And we also were asking for $575 for the remarking of the parking lot lines. They were pretty well non-existent anymore, so they've been repainted on there this fall. And we're just hoping to have you help with those costs. We've already repaired all the lighting and security lighting around the outside of the hall with help from a grant which helped do the main auditorium. But then with our volunteer money, we've replaced every light and every ballast and everything in the building, so everything's up to new standards now. So, but anyway, we were hoping that we could have help with these 3 items. We've had 2 years of basically no income, and just this would just help us out keep going, because it seems like the hydro bills never stop. So that's why we've asked for this. I know I've asked before to have the $3,500 given to us early, because we weren't going to be able to pay the hydro bill there for a while. So anyway, that's what I'm asking for, and I appreciate your considering it. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Any questions for Robert on that presentation? Okay, and it's not 1 out of 3. You're kind of hoping for 3 out of 3?
Yes, I'm hoping for 3 out of 3.
Okay, fair enough. Well, if there's no questions, thanks very much, Robert. Appreciate you coming out here and making the presentation.
Yeah, and I'd just like to thank you for all the help in the past, because it's helped keep that community center going, and we hope with our volunteers that we can still do that. I know maybe some people here don't realize that it's all volunteers that do the administration of that building and facility there. So we don't normally have to ask for a lot of help, because we do a lot of in normal circumstances, but these are sort of unexpected circumstances caused by COVID. So we appreciate any help you can give us. So thank you very much.
Okay, just on another note, I take it that you're probably starting to get some bookings for this year now.
Yes, not right back the way we were, but yes, we're getting bookings now. We had a good family reunion type Christmas deal that we had over the Christmas, but all the spring now is pretty quiet. We're having men's cards, and that's basically the only thing that's really bringing in income right now. We got a dance planned for the spring, and men's night's coming up March 10th, which is one of our main fundraisers, and that'll give us a boost once that's over with. So that's sort of what we got planned right now. And like, we have our normal things like the chicken barbecue and that kind of thing. But anyway, we're trying to keep the hall booked. We got, I think, 3 weddings booked already for this year. So, and they're always good events for our hall too. So.
Good. Okay. Well, thanks, Robert. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. Okay. Moving along then, Carmody Ballpark. Vicki Hamilton's here.
Hi, Mayor Mackenzie and Council. We're just really needing the grass cutting funding. We usually get a grant for 2,350, and we need to top up our mulch. We had a big playground installed quite a few years ago, but the mulch has decreased a lot, so we just need mulch basically. And I was estimating at around $2,000 for that. It was 1,750, and that was at least 6 years ago, so I'm guessing it's went up.
Okay, so you had mentioned, we have a screen there, you're really asking for 4,350?
Yeah, with the grass cutting, which is usually we get 2,350, and
Right.
then the mulch would be about 2,000.
Okay, all right, yep, no, I understand, okay. Okay, questions for Vicky on Romney Ballpark? No? Good. Andrew, no questions? That park's near you.
Are there any plans to replace the Canada flag in the park? Last time I was there, it was looking a bit
Yes,
torn up.
we do. We have plans this year, yes.
I'm sorry about the time that it did get taken down. That was my brother. He thought that it should be replaced.
That is in the works, yes. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Vicky.
Thanks.
Moving on then, the next one is Fullerton Centennial Ballpark, and Bruce Skinner's here to talk about that one.
Thank you, Mayor Mackenzie and Council. Based on the size of the other grant requests tonight, I'm feeling a little needy, but our request is for new lighting at the ballpark. And it's $18,875 plus the HST. Our lighting out there was new in 1989, so it's now whatever that works out to 34 years old. So obviously it's getting quite on the dim side. We're still a very active ballpark. Last year we're home to still 8 minor ball teams, a men's slingshot team, 2 co-ed adult 3-pitch teams, and also the Fullerton A's fast pitch team. So it's a very active ballpark. A typical week we're utilizing the lighting 5 nights a week through the summer, Monday to Friday. That's without rescheduled games and stuff. So, but I know it's getting almost to a point of a safety issue with how dim the lighting's getting out there. So 34 years is a long time. So.
Okay, Bruce, I just have one question. I'll maybe direct it to Wendy. And maybe you've already looked into this, but RED grants would maybe apply to some of this. I know you had some other projects that you're looking at doing maybe in the near future as well, but you know, you maybe want to save those grants for later too.
So the leadership team meeting is meeting on tomorrow to go over the RED grants and seeing what we can apply for. It does say small capital items, and so nothing of a big nature. So we're just going to review them and see kind of where we can apply these grants, or see if some of the asks out of tonight could become from the RED grant. Anyway, we're meeting tomorrow.
Okay, and I know RED, they like collaborative partnerships, you know, and I don't know whether you figured any fundraising yourself into these lights, but certainly a partnership with yourselves and the municipality and RED would, you know, would look fairly good, I think. But anyways, you've given us the information, and certainly we'll take it from here. Is there questions? Nicholas has a question.
The lighting upgrade, I guess it's not new light standards. What would the $20,000 cover in the lighting upgrade bulbs or balustrades for?
New LED
Okay.
lighting like this, so that it's not stand.
Okay. And if we did the purchase, could we get the HST back again so that we could reduce that by the HST amount? That would be perfect.
Wendy's nodding her head, yes. So, yeah, we would, go ahead.
We will run all these projects through our budgets as much as we can for that very purpose. And also they're essentially municipal assets at the end of the day, so it makes sense to do it that way.
Any other questions? Alex? Fullerton rep here? Okay. Okay, all right. Thanks very much, Bruce.
Thank you.
The next up is the Mitchell District Ag Society, and Janet Williamson is here, I think. I haven't seen her, but it has her name. Is there somebody here from the Ag Society? Okay, we'll move on. The next is the Mitchell District High School, and Becky Mahan and Scott Banner.
Hi, I'm Becky Mahan. I represent the parent council of Mitchell District High School, along with Scott Bannerman, who's principal of MDHS. We're looking for $10,000 to go towards helping to pay for a set of swings with an accessible option for students to use at recess time. In 2013, the grades 7 and 8 students were moved from Upper Thames Elementary School to MDHS to make room for the full day kindergarten program. As I wasn't a parent of a grade 7 or 8 at that time, I am unaware of any discussions or decisions that were made at that time on this issue. Now, however, we increasingly hear that the students don't have much to do at recess and they do need something to keep them occupied. Parent council did help to alleviate this somewhat in the summer of 2021 when we purchased a Gaga ball pit, which has been a huge hit. These swings will hopefully benefit the greater community of West Perth, along with grade 7 and 8 students at MDHS for years to come. Thank you.
Questions? When I saw the grant, I have to admit, I don't remember swings when I went to high school. I forgot all about grade 7 and 8s being there, so it makes quite a difference, doesn't it? Oh, Alex, go ahead.
I was that first year of 7 and 8s. I was in grade 7. I'm not that old. Where would they be putting the swing set? Would it be out by the basketball hoops, or where would that go?
Probably be on the other side of.
Kind of behind the barn area?
Where, sort of where the greenhouse is in that area.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And I guess the usual question, have you done or are they doing any fundraising towards this themselves?
Yeah, we consistently fundraise. We, parent council does bingos in Stratford regularly. We get about 2 a month. And we've been running some other small fundraisers to help offset this cost.
Good, okay. Any other questions? Nicholas, go ahead.
And then you mentioned they would be available for the community to use afterwards. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm beginning to feel like Dragon's Den or Shark Tank here. You know, everybody's coming in with proposals. Thanks very much for your presentation. The next one up is the Opal Group, and Mary Saunders is here to make a presentation.
Thank you very much, Mayor. My name's Mary Sanders, and I belong to the Opal Self-Help Group for the Physically Challenged. We've been running our group for the last 25 years, and we've been able to sort of finance ourselves, and we've been asking different clubs to be able to help us. Now we're asking for $500, and that will help us with the price of the mobility bus. Some of these people only get out once a month, and that's to this group. They're housebound, and it really is really helpful, and they enjoy the group. We have good friendships, and our group has gone down from 20 to about 10 now. It will also help when we get speakers to pay for speakers, and we do some crafts sometimes and for the snacks. and for advertising. We're going to be changing our logo from what it was. We have 2 artists in the group, so our next meeting will be able to pick a new logo and go from there. Any questions?
Questions for Mary? And I know because I was in here one day and your group was meeting in the new room next door. I think it was a luncheon that you were having. So,
Yes.
yeah, so it's nice. Like COVID's been hard on a lot of these groups, that used to meet, such as your group, and it's kind of nice to see them getting back out into civilization again. No questions? Okay, thank you very much, Mary. The next is the Optimist Club of Mitchell, and Diane Joslin's here for that group.
Mr. Mayor, Council, and all those who are listening to us. As you know, you have sponsored the Mitchell Optimist Music Festival for many years. Our records go back that I have seen to as early as 2001. At that time, it was $100. And then over the years, it has come up to $300. You see the list of the expenses that we have. So we have accredited adjudicators who come. They usually work with the University of Western Ontario, and they're educating the people who are in 4th year at university. And so we have wonderful people who come and buy into the notion that what we do with our music festival is to teach people to love music, because we all know that music is a vital part, not only of people who are little and learning it as almost a language, but that music connects the generations. And music is now being recognized as also connecting people who are having areas of dementia or Alzheimer's within their health. So we would like, if you could, perhaps give us $300. It helps to pay for all those expenses that we have, including some of the venues, including all the prizes we give out, usually around $4,500 of prizes. In saying all of that, we need to tell you that we have a reserve fund. When the JCs asked us to take over the festival, they gave us $3,000. We've grown that $3,000 now to $8,160. That's sitting in a GIC. Even with no revenue coming in the past 2 years from audiences, and that's a big part of our revenue stream, we did not have to go into that $8,160. Our intention is to pass that along to the next group that should take over the festival for us. We're looking at running it for another 3 years. We have somebody out there in the public that has expressed the fact that they would like to take it over. So what we're going to say to you tonight is we would love that you could give us that $300. We always have prizes going out in your name. That will happen even if you don't give us money this year, because we always go on the last year for the prize money recognition. But we would love if you could still do what you're doing. And then in 3 years' time, if a retired teacher who loves music in our community would like to step in, we could pass that money along to make sure that the festival stays going. 76 years of it with this year, minus the one. Now, it's a remarkable thing to have. So if you could support us, even if it's not the full $300, we just love to keep you on the roster for other years as a supporter. Thank you very much. We have a celebration coming up at the end of our festival this year at the Concert of Stars. And you're all invited to come. That's April the 21st at the Crystal Palace. Thank you for the time that you've taken to hear us tonight.
Okay, thanks, Diane. Just wait a second and see if there's any questions. Do you wish to put a plug in? You have an event coming up this month.
Oh, yes. Would you like us to do that?
You
We
can
have a
put a plug
wonderful
in there
event
for
coming
that.
up. If you haven't got tickets, I have some with me. So we have this is our major fundraiser for the Optimist Club. We hope to generate around $7,000. The meal ticket is $30, but that just covers the price of the meal. is quails, just covers the price of meals. Wonderful participation from the community in terms of the silent auction items that we have. And of course, there's a bar and there's other things that happen, but we'd love you to come to that as well. We're really proud of what we do in the community. And as I was listening here tonight, I think there's some opportunities for the Optimist Club of Mitchell to be approached by some of the projects that I'm hearing about. We've been known to help with some playground areas. We've been known to help with some things. Just the people who have come tonight, if they would just approach us, there might be some help we can do for them. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much, Diane. Okay, that concludes, I think, everybody that was approaching. Oh, no, we have one more. Sorry. Yes. Got to learn to read my writing here. St. Columban Soccer, sorry. And Sandy Baker is here. Almost missed you, Sandy. Sorry.
No worries. All right, so I'm here to represent St. Columban Soccer Club. Last year we had over 600 players work out in St. Columban with our teams. And we are hoping to keep costs affordable for those families. Over half of our, or approximately half of our players come from West Perth. We offer players at all skill levels an opportunity to play. So from our youngest players that are 3 years old in our U4 House League, all the way up to men's and women's teams, and offering House League teams, recreational and competitive travel teams for different player development. In 2023, we are entering into different tiers so that we have some more competitive teams to offer that advancement for those who are looking for that, while continuing to grow our really popular House League soccer program that we have on Monday nights. It's always a great time to see all the families that are out on Mondays in St. Columban, even though we do cause a bit of a traffic problem there. So we are looking for about $500 and looking for that to help with our maintenance and club costs of the fields and lawn mowing lines, things like that, as well as replacing a few of our nets that we need to, as well as new jerseys for a couple of our House League teams as we add additional teams each year.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. Questions for Sandy about soccer? Go ahead, Alex.
Have you also approached our neighbors to the west about this as well?
Yes, we do ask Huron East for contribution as well. I know the technicality, St. Columban's actually not in West Perth, but most of our, a good portion of our players do come from there. So, pardon?
The south part is where the dozen houses are.
Yep, is that where the line is, right at the highway there? Yeah. So yes, we do ask for a donation or sponsorship from Huron East as well.
Thank you.
I can verify that it's a going concern there. If you're ever up there on a night when kids are playing soccer, it's like a zoo. Has to put it mildly. So, yeah. Any questions for Sandy with regards to that request? Alex or Andrew?
You have teams coming from even London way, don't you? Come play in St. Columban?
We do, yeah. So our competitive teams do play in the Elgin Middlesex soccer league, and that's primarily London, could be as far as Sarnia, St. Thomas. Yeah, all teams around that area too. Yep. Yeah.
Any last call for questions? Okay, thank you very much, Sandy. Sorry, I almost missed you, but Dan wouldn't let me do that. Do you want to? Yeah, would you like a recess for a few minutes now? And meanwhile, I'll thank everybody for coming. You can stay if you want. We'll just take a bit of a break, have a stretch, but we do appreciate you coming out and making a presentation with regards to your funding and what you need and what programs that you're doing or what repairs you need to have happen. So appreciate that. And as I said, you're welcome to stay. We're just going to take probably a 5-minute break, maybe 10 minutes at most. And yeah, we won't make a decision tonight. We just gather this information tonight to take it to our next budget meeting. So thank you very much. Okay, if we have everybody back, I'll let. We're good? Okay, all right, we'll carry on. The next item on our agenda is reports, and the first item is from the planning department, and it's Perth County Official Plan Amendment number 211. And I'm not sure who is, oh yeah, John's still here. Didn't see you, John. Sorry. Okay, so I'll let you talk to us about that. I was looking for Susanna, and I knew she had left, so yeah. And I looked right at you, but I didn't see you. Sorry. No worries at all.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and council members. All right, so in front of you today, we're going to speak about official plan amendment number 211, which is directly related to previously in the evening, we talked about zoning bylaw amendments application for this property as well. So this will be the official plan amendment, which takes place first. And after speaking here, we'll take it to public meeting at County Council. So the property is located just south of Fullerton, like previously stated, so I won't dwell on it too much. The property is designated primary and secondary aggregate resource, floodplain, and earth science ANSI in the Perth County official plan, with the A2 zone and the floodplain zone on the property as well. And it's 1.75 hectares in size. So an official plan amendment is being requested to construct that single detached dwelling as previously stated in the zoning. The applicant wishes to remove the primary and secondary aggregate resource designation and replace it with an agricultural designation. The primary and secondary aggregate resource designation is intended to identify areas with potential gravel and sand deposits and limit development that would hinder the extraction of those resources. The agricultural designation permits residential development as accessory to an agricultural use, and in certain limited scenarios, limited non-agricultural related circumstances. So the change in designation is the first step towards permitting that dwelling, and a related zoning bylaw amendment is also required, as we've discussed earlier today. The change of the designation would remove the lands from being reserved for aggregate extraction. So I just wanted to quickly touch upon an earth science ANSI, or what is classified as areas of natural and scientific interest. So the aggregate study submitted has satisfied section 5514 of the Perth County official plan, and that is essentially relating to earth science ANSIs. So earth science ANSIs are examples of significant representation of bedrock, fossil, and landforms in Ontario. And this property is located within two earth science ANSIs, one being the Fullerton Moraine ANSI, and the second being the North Thames Valley ANSI. So essentially that italic print at the bottom there is the Perth County official plan policy 5515 that needs to be satisfied for the official plan amendment. And then it says such development will not negatively affect the overall character of the geological feature. And the owner has submitted an aggregate study that we'll get into momentarily. So again, the owners submitted these following studies for the official plan amendments. First one being the MDS calculation, which has indicated that the construction of the dwelling would not be negatively impacted by existing neighboring farming operations. Stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessment was submitted, and at the end of the stage 2 recommendation, the archaeologists recommended that no further studies be required. An aggregate impact study was also completed, as previously discussed, And this study has concluded that the subject lands are not characterized as potential primary or secondary deposits in the Aggregate Resources Inventory Paper, or ARIP, mapping produced by the MNDMF, previously Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, does not exhibit characteristics indicative of sand and gravel deposits and is in an area with existing development that would significantly hinder a proposed extraction operation. The agricultural designation is appropriate for the subject lands because it is within a prime agricultural area. It is considered prime ag lands as the soil classification is class 1. It is outside a settlement area, although the subject property does abut the settlement area of Fullerton. And the boundary of that settlement area cannot be expanded without a comprehensive review. And that was not undertaken as part of the official plan amendment. The agricultural designation is desirable as it provides for circumstances that would permit a dwelling as it is the owner's intended development. So again, it's the same correspondence received as the zoning bylaw amendment. UTRCA Upper Thames has proposed that they have no objections. And the same comment was provided by Enbridge Gas about being notified prior to partaking in the development of the dwelling. You can take any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Any questions for John with regard to the application? Nicholas, go ahead.
So is it Upper Thames that owns the property in that picture to the right?
Through you, Mayor McKenzie, yes, absolutely.
Any other questions? I'm just curious, was there ever any gravel in that entire area there that's ever been removed? I just wondering why the Agri Resources is on that.
Through you, Mayor McKenzie, there could have possibly been one a bit to the south. The ARIP report, which is online, it's available for public. I noticed that there was a green patch just to the south. Whether or not that was previously mined or not, I'd have to complete a review.
Okay, if there's no further questions, we do have a recommendation here, and the recommendation is that the West Perth Council received a report entitled Perth County Official Plan Amendment 211 affecting lands described as part lots 12 and 13 concession, West Mitchell Road Reference Plan 44R 3428, Part 1, Fullerton Ward, Municipality of West Perth, for discussion in advance of the public meeting scheduled at the March 2nd, 2023 meeting of Perth County Council, and that West Perth Council endorse the official plan amendment 211 to the County of Perth official plan. We have a mover and seconder for that. Deputy Mayor Trinkowski and take my pick, Councillor Foster rather, sorry. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you, John. Next report is Fire Chief's report, the November, December activity reports. Chief Hunter.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight's report is the last activity report for 2022. We finished up the year just under 130 calls, which has been about the norm for the last few years. Our training, we continued training over the busy holiday season, and also our public education was busy with Carbon Monoxide Awareness Week in November. We had a display out at Rona, and in December we did our 12 days of holiday fire safety. And I'll gladly take any questions.
Questions for Chief Hunter? None? We have a recommendation here then that Municipality of West Perth received the November, December 2022 West Perth Fire Department activity report for information. Moved and seconded by Counselor Chessel, Counselor Harold. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And thanks, Bill. And next is the library board report. I was going to say we saved the best for last, but there's still a couple after you, so.
You're very kind. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. The library board met on January 24th. That was not only the first meeting of 2023, but also it was the first meeting of the new board. So we were able to welcome Kelly Reimer and Councillor Fournier as new trustees. We said goodbye to Bert Vorstenbosch Jr. and John Moak, who retired at the end of December, with our thanks for their dedicated service over the years to the community through the library. And Jesse Britton was re-elected chairperson, and Kim Wolf was elected vice chair of the board. The board discussed the possibility of hosting a community pantry with non-perishable food items. So there was a motion passed to provide a space for donations that would either be available and accessible to people who physically come into the library and or these items can be donated to the Mitchell Food Bank to supplement the items they already have. The board updated their library accessibility policy and also finalized their new strategic plan for the next 4 years. So there is a new mission statement, a new vision statement, a new list of organizational values. The library board did opt to keep the 4 strategic priorities that we had in the previous plan, because due to the pandemic, we really weren't able to fully explore the opportunities that we had for these 4 priorities. So that would include improving and increasing the library's resources, connecting the community through partnership organizations, supporting the community through providing volunteer possibilities, and sustaining the library, not only its building, but also through maintenance and fundraising opportunities, including grants. I believe you also have not only the minutes, but the annual report from last year, as well as a monthly statement, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions? Oh, very good. Well, thank you. We do have a recommendation here, and it's that the Council Municipality of West Perth accept the West Perth Library Board meeting report as information. Moved by Councilor Rose, seconded by Councilor Foster. Why am I doing that tonight? I don't know. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item up is the operation manager's report. And again, that is for December, I believe, or January, December. Mike, it's all yours.
Thanks. The activity report in front of you is actually December and January, so Walter is correct. So we did some health and safety, and then of course we're going on a 2-week cycle for winter and whatever we're getting. It seems like we have spring, then 2 weeks of winter, 2 weeks of spring, 2 weeks of winter, and tomorrow we enter into spring again. We currently are planning on having a tender go out. It's with Huron County, and it's on the boundary of Hibbert on Road 183, just south of Chislehurst. That was mentioned to you during budget presentations. And that is to be anticipated to close February 23rd. And we also just given you a brief description and outline of what we did during the Christmas storm event, which we declared a significant weather event. And those are the actions and what we did during that event. Is there any questions?
Questions for Mike? Well, I don't see any. Okay.
Walter,
Walter.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
will the operations manager stick around to correspondence?
I was gonna
Yeah,
ask.
great,
him
thank
to,
you.
I have to
yes.
deal with the sidewalk and line 17 issue.
Okay, thanks, Mike. So we do have a recommendation here that we accept the operations activity report as information. So moved by Councillor Peltz, seconded by Councillor Chessel. All those in favor? That is carried. Thanks. Recreation Facilities and Parks Manager, Darcy?
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie. The first report we have in front of you is the extension of ice. The only note I'll really make on this one is that it is hoping that the Hawks do have a good run. The first two rounds wouldn't really affect our normal operation be if they got into the third round. But I'll gladly take any questions.
Just for Darcy? Do we have a separate motion for that? Yes, we do. No.
Yeah.
No. Yes, we do. That municipality of West Perth direct the recreation facilities manager to extend the ice season to the length of the Mitchell Hawks playoff run. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Rose, Councillor Duck, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
Okay, and the other report you have in front of you is the activity report. The only note and a little bit of guidance that I'd be looking for from council tonight is on the Ketterson concession booth RFP. I am looking to release that next week, and for a little background, we normally release that pre-COVID, and we go out to an RFP process for a bidder to bid. They usually give us their monthly rental costs that they pay to us, and then let us know how they're going to operate it, and so on and so forth. The request we got just recently was from Minor Fastball. They were asking that during their Mitchell Fastball Fest that they use the booth, which wouldn't be available if we contracted it out. So they said that was fine, but they didn't want the booth to open during the weekend of the Fastball Fest because they wanted to have a fundraising barbecue. I do have concerns with that, just because we are asking for the contractor to provide a service throughout the week, and they usually use the weekend to make their money and have a better, busier weekend. And I don't want to start kind of picking and choosing from the weekend. So my recommendation would be that we don't do that, and we don't have a motion in front. I'm just really looking for council's guidance on the situation. Is I think that we go out to RFP and the contractor is able to open up on all the weekends throughout the summer season. But if there's any other comments or concerns in regards to that, then I would gladly take them from council. Other than that, the activity reports in front of you, and I'll gladly take any questions on any of that as well.
Okay, questions on with regards to the item that Darcy discussed or on the whole report? So we're in agreement. I think he's looking for some kind of advice.
Yeah, I think if there's no comments against it, then we'll just go with what my kind of idea was.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, so the recommendation here is that we accept the activity report as information. I know it's Councillor O'Donnell and Councillor Peltz. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. Next item is clerk's report. So Dan?
Thank you, Your Worship. Before council tonight, two just small, I'll call them housekeeping items if I may. The first one is we're looking to get council to authorize the transfer of up to $18,500. This is money that was in our operating budget for, this one was particularly earmarked for staff at cemetery, but it's just general operation money. We weren't able to book a contractor to come in and do marker and monument repairs. We're working with that contractor currently to get them booked into this next season. So essentially we're looking for council to approve the transfer of that unused operating funds to go sit into the tax stabilization reserve. And essentially that's just, we're utilizing that reserve as a full flow through account to be brought in and utilized this year for maintenance projects. If there's any questions on that one, I can try to address them now. Additionally, we do have, and it's been pointed out to me that it's Hawking. There's no S on Hawking, so I apologize for that. But we have a donation sitting there from the Hawking estate, thank you, to the Royce Cemetery, which is sitting as unrecognized capital, or sorry, unrecognized revenue. We've been working to try and find out if there was any earmark or anything for this, but we've had no luck through the will. Royce Cemetery Committee is proposing to utilize some funds for the construction of a new sidewalk or just pathway in the cemetery, and we felt this this money could be utilized. If there's any questions, I can happily answer them.
Okay, questions for Dan on that? No questions? Okay. Recommendation is here then that the Council Municipality of West Perth authorize the transfer of up to 18,500 of unused operating maintenance funds for the staff of cemetery as of December 31st, 2022 to the tax stabilization reserve to be utilized for cemetery maintenance projects in 2023. And the council authorized the use of up to $10,000 from the Hawking donation to Royce Cemetery, currently recognized as deferred revenue for the construction of a new pathway in Royce Cemetery. Do we have a mover? Moved by Councillor Vink, seconded by Councillor Phelps. Any further questions on that? I would be amiss if I didn't raise the concern I had of putting that money into a tax stabilization reserve. It just, it's probably okay, but it just doesn't sound right. Like we're taking money from a cemetery and it looks offhand like we're trying to use it to lower the tax levy. So I don't know, a different terminology might be a little better there. But anyways, that's what we're doing with it. And Dan has explained how that's going to work. So, okay, I've read the motion. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Did I get one? Oh, sorry. Okay. All those in favor then? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Okay. The next report is from the CAO, and it's with regards to the municipal office project and budget update.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So you got to the last report. What do you say when you got to the last report? You say the best for last, or you didn't say it? But
Say it. You notice that? I didn't say it.
Rosemary got it, but you win, Rosemary. Good for you. So this report is a culmination of a team effort of a number of members of council that were on the building committee and their work, and then manifested in the report numbers that have come out of it and the recommendations. And I just want to mention that obviously Darcy's work with the project, and Darcy isn't a co-author listed, but he was a co-author on the project, and the finance part of the report. I'll get Wendy to help me with answers, and if there's going to be questions on reserves and things, we'll have Wendy come up. And whether we don't necessarily have to approve the transfers tonight, but we certainly have them there if we're ready to do them, and it's in the recommendation. So the project went through a lengthy and thorough process of considering options to renovate or build a new municipal office. And this process goes back as far as, to the best of my knowledge, around 2010 to 2011. The process culminated in a decision in December of 2020 to proceed with the new build option rather than the renovation option. And once that rather complex decision was made, things moved very quickly. The building working group oversaw a detailed design process in tender, and on July 19th, 2021, council approved the project. And if you refer to your report, which I'm certainly not going to go through line by line, but I want to highlight a couple of things. There was a project cost budget, which was estimated at $3,541,248, and a project revenue budget, which was identified 3 primary sources of revenue and totaled 3.5 million. And actually, it was a little lower than the cost, but we realized at that point in time it was just an estimate. Through the process of implementation, we signed a transfer payment agreement and added COVID resiliency grant money of $160,000 to the project. And as outlined in the report, we also are anticipating exceeding our revenue proposed to come in from property sales. And so the bottom line on that is that we have significantly more revenue than we anticipated. Overall, in terms of the cost, the project did come in over budget, and the report explains the elements that are over budget. The three primary items that were added were the reason for the over budget. One's environmental site work to allow for the demolition of the old fire hall, but that site work sets us up to have all options available to us for the municipal office. So we're essentially all in place to have a clean environmental. Secondly, we had the rolling file system, which all of you have been through the building and recognize the importance of a rolling file system with the small footprint that we dedicated to the vault to have a fireproof vault. And it just got missed in the budgets, and we intended to cover that rolling file system with contingency, which was pretty modest to begin with, and we weren't able to cover it. We stayed under budget for contingency, but we weren't able to cover that unbudgeted item. And then finally, we made a decision to widen and repave and put new curbs in the existing parking lot. And I know most councilors park there because of the back entrance, and that decision just makes that parking lot way more functional and also refreshes it for a very long time. So I think a good decision. So those three unbudgeted items total 111,000, and the project ended up being 113,000 over budget. So basically, well, those three items totaled up to 112,000 roughly, and the project was 113,000 over budget. So we came in pretty close, and most of the overage had to do with the added items. Gone through in the report, and certainly happy to answer any questions about the hits, the reason the contingency approvals occurred and what were the big draws on contingency. They're quite typical of a construction project like this. And as I said, 4.2% contingency is pretty modest, and we came in slightly under in that, although we did have some history with this site and we had good geotechnical information to guide us. So we came in pretty close on that. And then the last thing I'd like to highlight in the report is the when you look at the overall budget in the end, the final costs and the final revenue, we actually came out about 44,000 to the good. And what that means is we're having to go to reserves and financing for 44,000 less than we planned to, which I think technically puts us under budget, but I recognize that that's spinning words because we are a little bit over on the cost side. We just had more revenue to cover. I consider that to be a really good news story in the and got this far in the report and having talked about building during COVID, and we built a building during COVID that came in at $260 a square foot, which I think turns out being good value for the municipality, which is one of the main driving principles of the project when council approved it. On financial, we have put before you options for financing the budget for the project. We initially felt that we would finance it with some borrowing. We've analyzed the reserves and had a number of reserves that were set aside for administration office improvements. Those that were on council previously or maybe followed it in the paper would recognize that when we sold the Fullerton, Logan, and Hibbert shops, two of those properties had administration offices, Logan and Fullerton, and the money for the project was divided up such that approximately 1.1 million went to fund the building of a new shop in Mitchell, which was a consolidated shop, and $500,000 was put into a reserve to pay for this future project at the date that we arrived at. There are a couple of other reserves that make logical sense to go to this project, and the bottom line is we feel that with the reserves that were set aside, the project can be funded with reserves rather than taking a loan to fund the outstanding part of the revenue that's needed to fund it. And with that, and I think with Wendy's assistance, if there are questions, we can take questions.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. In a previous life, you used to sell fridges to Eskimos, didn't you? Okay, questions for Jeff on any of that? Councilor Harold first.
Can you or Wendy, in 10 words or less, explain where the policing reserve money comes from or what it was put away for?
So the police, I think I can start, and the policing reserve money, you guys will keep coming, Wendy, because you're gonna have to fix whatever I say. That reserve has been around since the policing shifted from Mitchell Police to OPP. And it was set aside because the Mitchell Police took a portion of the municipal office for their operation. So it was left with the municipal capital. That's why it got dropped into that municipal capital buildings budget, reserve line. Is that 16 words?
Pretty close for you.
So I went through the police reserve and it looks like a lot of it was contribution from police surpluses. I didn't dive into too much of that because it doesn't tell me much other than that's what it was. The last time, so in 2015, the balance was 813,000 and there was a withdrawal, but it doesn't tell me what it was for, of 308,000. Bring it down to 505. And then in 2016, there was a withdrawal of 100,000, that brought it down to 405. And then I know in the report, it said that was the last time we kind of used it, but we've been consolidating some of them. So there was in 2019, 18,000 contributed from contracted surplus, bringing it to the 423.
And I can just add, because I wasn't here, but I came very shortly after, and Mayor McKenzie can validate this, that the 2015 withdrawal was a $300,000 withdrawal because that reserve was used as a tax stabilization fund, because that was the year that West Perth had the $660,000 reduction in OMPF. And it was done to smooth that impact out. But that was the significant draw. And I suspect the next year was a small draw on it as well to do the same thing.
Okay, Councilor Chessel.
There was a noted pending sale. When is that completion date?
So the noted pending sale, we had 3 sales. 2 of them are completed. The third one follows the same pattern. It just has a later completion date. We have a verbal agreement that it will be sold to the buyer who it was offered to. And these 3 properties were offered to the existing owner next door first, and then to the owner on the west side second, because that owner is a new development. We have not put that in a purchase and sale agreement, but it will go in probably April. There's been lots of communication about completing the sale, lots of time provided for the decision. The delay on the decision was that we have a must build clause, and the potential buyer needed to confirm that they could get a builder to build within that must build clause, and they've satisfied themselves that they can.
Other, excuse me, other questions? Councilor Foster?
What happened to the Hibbert Ward Administration Building?
It was sold. And then, and Staffa Hall was also sold. There wasn't a great amount of revenue derived.
I was
from
just
that.
wondering, because
Yeah.
a lot of this happened before I was born. And so I don't know what, because I knew what was in Fullerton, because I live around there. And I knew where the office building was in Logan, but I wasn't sure where Hibbert met and if we still had any other buildings.
The, and I'm not certain on the date, but the office in Dublin that the township had there, Hibbert Township, was sold shortly after amalgamation. It's one of the first sales. And I can't tell you what they did with the funding or where that money went, probably into, I'm guessing it went into general, but I have no, I don't know. And there's nobody here now that would even know. Yeah. Yeah, no, it was sold, I'm gonna say within the first quarter after amalgamation. It wasn't long. So, yeah. Any other questions on that? Councillor Chessel again?
For the municipal office reserve, why was only 24,000 approximately chosen from that reserve?
Definitely, we could choose to use that reserve. Just the other one would deplete it and it had the bigger number. It's really just a flip of a coin, but also in dealing with the building going forward, we may need funds. So we kind of left that one, so it was earmarked if we needed it. But it's, those funds are council's discretion and they can be moved. Spent.
If I can add, that municipal office reserve would probably be better named a facility reserve than just the municipal office reserve. And there are other facilities that we will hold those reserves for example, where the current OPP station is and other sites.
Other questions? No? Okay. I have a fairly lengthy recommendation here, and I'll read it. That the Council Municipality of West Perth accept the report entitled Municipal Office Project and Budget Update for information. That the administration building capital expenditure of $3,654,413.44 be funded through the net proceeds of the property sales in 2022 of $943,295.67, the ISIP COVID resiliency grant of $160,124, and the use of policing reserve of $423,146.86. The municipal capital property reserve of $1,907,684.62, and the municipal office building reserve of $24,412.29 as of December 31st, 2022. That the shortfall of $195,750 be financed from the taxation stabilization reserve as of December 31st, 2022, which will be reimbursed by the future land sale budgeted in 2023, and the temporary financing through Infrastructure Ontario of $2,439,876 be fully reimbursed in 2023. Do we have a mover and seconder for that motion? Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Deputy Mayor Jankowski. Further discussion? All those in favor?
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Go ahead.
If the reserve that's like for the administration building would be better off called the general reserve for facilities, can we rename it to such?
Wendy?
Yeah, we're gonna bring a report on the next budget meeting, which is in February, and we can address renaming some of those reserves because we've kind of pushed some of them together, and it'll be a full report. So we can make a recommendation at that point. If you like, we can make it now.
We'll just do it at the later date if it's coming up then. Just thought I'd say. Thank you.
Okay, was there any other questions? All right, so we had a mover and seconder. Yep. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. All right, thanks, Wendy. Jeff? All right, brings us down to correspondence, and there's a few items here. The first one is from Maggie Kerr, the Transit Project Coordinator, about a training session. And is that for all the lower tier members as well? Do you know, Dan? It kind of sounds like that in the email that it's for everybody. And it's on February the 24th.
Yeah, it was shared with all lower tier municipalities and we're just bringing it forward for council. It was asked to be shared with council, so we're sharing it with council.
Okay, all right. CAO at the Ritz Villa. The next is from from Upper Thames. And we'll maybe ask Mike to come up if he wants to comment on it. There's a letter there from Upper Thames Missionary Church with regards to the services that they provide and asking if we would look after snow removal on the sidewalk there. And maybe, Mike, I guess if you want to lead into a little bit of history on that street and then open it up for questions.
Yeah, so once back a while ago, the public school was there. So we did do Roland Street from Wellington all the way to St. George and plow that section of sidewalk. Once the school was sold and it became the church, we still proceeded to plow that until Henry Street was developed. We developed Henry Street and placed sidewalk in 2019. And in 2020, of course, we built the Henry Street Bridge, which then opened up Henry Street and the northwest section of Mitchell and stopped the buses from going there because kids were now within the 1 kilometer radius. So in 2021, we changed our sidewalk snow clearing policy. We deleted Roland Street and we added Henry Street, a larger section for the pedestrian access to the schools, because that was the main artery.
Okay, so the request in the letter is if we would reconsider and look after that street. So I open it up for discussion. Councillor Phelps?
Just looking at the town plan and the other churches, all have north, south, and east-west sidewalks, and they all look after their east-west sidewalks. They have maintenance that looks after that. All of the churches provide a service to the community, different services, and they look after it. And I'm not sure if we do one, we don't have to do them all. And that's quite a bit more, isn't it, Mike?
It is. Council received a report regarding the increase of level of service to sidewalks, I believe last February of 2022, and we had that discussion.
Any other comments? Councillor Duck?
Thanks, Mike. Do you have a rough cost as to what it might be for a season to add that street back if we were to go that route?
No, I don't.
So do we do any other east and west streets from the highway over to the arena at all?
Yes, we do Henry Street and we do the school zones, and then we do Campbell, and the only other ones is the highways.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Do we need a motion for this, Dan, or just direction for staff?
I think it'd be cleaner if council wanted to give a motion. If council made no motion, though, it would be viewed as in the negative. The request would be silent, so administration would view it negative.
I think it's probably better in this case if we have a motion one way or the other. As Dan said, it would be cleaner and no questions as to what was going on. So Councillor Phelps?
I make a motion, we just leave things the way they are. Again, we should either do all of them or none of them. The Main Street looks after theirs, and the church up there is Upper Thames Missionary, is also a business that provides services, and they should have access and look after it like all the other businesses, and the churches look after their east-west section, and that would be my recommendation.
If I may just offer a friendly amendment that council direct staff to maintain our current winter maintenance plan.
What he said.
Council will
Okay.
have the opportunity to revisit this in early September when I bring back my winter operations plan for its annual review. That's why we have an operational plan for that time.
Okay. So we have a motion on, do we have a second? Councillor Duck, you're seconding his motion? Okay. Any further discussion on that particular motion? Okay, all those in favor of Doug's motion? That is carried. Okay, thank you. All right, stick around, Mike. I think we need you for the next one as well. And we have a correspondence from Joel Gardner regards line 17 and capital upgrades on that particular road. And again, I guess if you want to give us a little bit of background
Yeah.
on that road and the history.
I'll give you a little bit of history. Of course, West Perth is surrounded by other municipalities, so therefore we have boundary agreements currently in place. These current and legal boundary agreements clearly state who does what and what we do. So a boundary agreement specifies which road sections, which municipality would look after. And they look after all the maintenance in those sections without any invoicing going back and forth. Then when it comes to capital, it is the area or the jurisdiction of where that road section is, that municipality takes the lead. So an example is with Perth South, we look after basically there's 3 or 4 different blocks of sections that we look after. If we have a bridge project involved in that road section, and if it is belonging to me, I take the lead. Therefore, I issue the capital request to Ken, and then he needs to present it to his council, and I have to present it to mine. And the vice versa, if it's in his area, territory or area. There is one exception to that rule, and we are currently dealing with that, and that is the boundary agreement with Huron East right now. That is because the county right now currently looks after their bridges. And once they have completed this project, which they are the lead on because they have the higher tier over me, even though it's my road section. Once this project is being deleted or handed down, Perth East will be taking, or Huron East, sorry, will be taking over that road or that bridge payment of the 50% capital cost. However, in 40 years' time, when the first maintenance is anticipated, West Perth would be the lead on that project because it is within our area. So getting back to this issue, the Gardners would need to request this at Perth, South Huron. I always want to say Huron South Huron. And then their council would need to determine whether they want to go to the capital expense or just stay status quo. If they decide to go to the capital expense, they will be informing us and me, and then I have a legal obligation to present that to you as at council at budget time. It is no different than our line 17 bridge structure that we presented to them for the last 3 years. They have their budget meeting prior to ours, and they've denied doing the bridge for the last 3 years. So you haven't seen that in front of you yet because their budget meetings are prior to ours. But those that have seen the 5-year forecast of what bridge projects were to do, that one is on it. So unfortunately, this is in the hands of South Huron, and that's where the request should go first, and then for us to follow up on.
Okay, any further questions? Councillor Phelps?
Are the Gardners aware of the process of how that all works, or her
I-
letter was kind of like, you're getting the runaround from both ends? And is it-
I believe they understand. I handed, I believe Sherry Bell, the counselor at the time, Counselor Bell I gave her the boundary agreement. And I believe she distributed it to the Gardners, but I'm not quite familiar. Unfortunately, it's in South Huron's hands right now, and hopefully, if I'm more than willing to talk to them and explain the process to them, if that's would make things easier.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Nicholas. No.
I'll look something up here.
The only comment I was going to make, it's a question, I guess. So do we follow up with a letter from our office to Gardner saying, you know, that it's, you know, they said, I think in their information, they had never received anything from us at
Yeah.
one time. So do we follow up with a correspondence to them and tell them to go and see?
I would
Hearing said.
recommend us doing that. The initial request that went to them, we never did receive that request. It went straight just to South Huron.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to their roads manager and it was denied there. So because it was denied there, I had nothing to bring forward to this council to act upon. So I feel it's proper that we at least correspond.
I think we should respond back to them and we can copy South Huron as well, but just say that it's not our road. That, you know, we realize once they decide to do it, we'll pick up 50%, but this time we won't. And the other, the one previous to that with the sidewalk, so there'll be a letter come from the municipality to the church then informing them. Okay, good. Nicholas?
Yeah, the latest correspondence that I got from Joel was that he had heard now back from South Huron, but it's not in their 15-year plan to upgrade the road. So not in South Huron's plan to upgrade the road in the next 15 years.
Thanks, that's news to me.
I can forward that.
Yep.
Okay, good.
So then maybe a final question. When does that boundary agreement expire with South Huron?
They're open-ended.
Okay.
Typically they were good for 10 years, but I think new legislation now states that they can be open-ended as long as there's, what is it, a 1-year notice or 30-day notice, Dan?
It would depend on the agreement. I can pull it up quick. Different agreements can stipulate different time periods and clauses.
And if I may, is there a bridge or culvert structure on that road that needs some work?
Not to my recollection,
Okay.
no. It's the structures that are in the high maintenance area. There's 3 of them in our paved section of line. Actually, we had an emergency repair 2 years ago because it was delayed too long. So we have 2 others on that section. So there's 3. I
Okay.
believe the South Huron one was updated in 2018 or 19. They were late getting to the table, but the rest of them were done in 2016. And Huron East was in January of this year.
I don't think you're far off. It's September 17.
So is there?
Age will do that to you.
Yeah, is there a renewal on it? Sorry. 27, 10-year agreement.
They're typically 10.
Yeah.
The new ones are no stipulation.
Okay, good.
So then I think, if I may, Walter, the important part is the communication. If we can keep the communication going with them.
I think we should send a letter back to Gardeners and a copy to here in South here, whatever.
See,
South
you do the
here,
same.
yeah, I know. Yeah, we could do that with a motion, sure. Councillor Vink will move that. Do we have somebody that would second that? Councillor Phelps? Okay, all those in favor of that? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. All right, I want to keep moving here. It's past 9:30. So the other item of correspondence is from North Perth requesting support with regards to the Galbraith Conservation Area. I don't know, Darcy, do you want to kind of give us a bit of background and how that would maybe fit into what we have here?
Yes, so I spoke to Amy at length on Friday in regards to this. They're very, very passionate about this project, which is a great thing. I do think it is a great asset to have in the area. They are looking to do a summer day camp, which I don't really feel like it would be competition to ours. It would just be another avenue that people could go because we usually do have a wait list or we're very, very full. So I do think it is a very worthy cause. And in speaking to her, she said, I'm not looking for any financial, like give me 2,000 a year or anything like that. Right now, we're just looking for support. We're just looking at the communities around us support. They are going out with to private groups as well, but they're just right now trying to rally support and see what they got and bring it back to council. So I think my recommendation would be that we support this and see where it goes, and we can figure out the financial stuff in the future.
All right, thanks, Darcy. Any questions with regards to that correspondence? Steve?
It's not so much a question, it's just a comment on it, that I think it's a great idea. When the Optimists ran that camp, it was a huge success. They just didn't have the ability to keep it going any longer. And it's nice that somebody wants to try and bring it back. A lot of, I want to use the word communities, and that's not correct. Although it's not in West Perth, it's close enough that there would be plenty of people from our West Perth region would use that, and the children at camp, just like you say. So I think it's a great idea.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Anybody else comment on this? Andrew?
I was just wondering if we could perhaps reach out to the local cadet organizations. I was a cadet for quite a long time, and having a nearby place to go and do camping training exercises would be amazing for a cadet group.
Yeah, I can definitely mention that to Amy. I think she's gonna take the head on reaching out to the groups as North Perth, but I can definitely mention that to Amy for sure.
And I guess that is something that we could explore further down the road when we find out what's happening with this, you know. But I think right now, what Darcy's suggesting, that we support their request. How do you want to word that, Dan? In principle?
I think we could just support or endorse the North Perth business plan for the conservation at this point.
Okay, sounds good. We can get a mover and seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Harold and seconded by Councillor O'Donnell, that we support that correspondence. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, the recommendation that we have here then is that Council Municipality of West Perth accept the correspondence as information. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Rose, Councillor Fournier. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Brings us down to council reports, and I don't think we have anything additional. We have no bylaws. Under announcements, council meeting February the 21st. There's one other that's on our desk there tonight. It's with regards to Earth, kind of a Earth Power 101 session at the Elmhurst Inn in Ingersoll on March the 23rd, and there's information there. They want to a reply back, and I don't see the reply. There was a date there, but
that date's down the road a little ways, but we're just wanting to kind of get it firmed up so people can get it on their calendars. So you can speak to Hannah, if you could just indicate whether you think you can attend or not attend. It's a good session for new counselors that want the Earth 101, but we can also bring back the slides because it's a daytime session and might not be suitable for everyone to make it.
all right. Steve, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention there's a fight fraud session coming up that the OPP are going to put on. It's on February the 23rd, right here at the municipal office. There's a session at 9 a.m. and a session at 6 p.m. And it's an information session on how to fight fraud and catch scams so that people don't get lose their money in any way like that. It's for the general public or anybody who wants to come to it.
Okay. You have your thing on. You want to say something?
No, I was just.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, Dean. Sorry.
No, thank you, Your Worship. So I had two announcements. I guess one, I wanted to point out February 15th is Canadian Ag Day. So I would encourage everyone to support Canadian agriculture through your purchases and through your social media texts and so forth. Second is something new. The announcement just came out today, if you allow me to call it up on my phone, from Perth County. The Perth County Stewardship Program is being launched, and Perth County and its member municipalities are North Perth, Perth East, West Perth, and Perth South are seeking input to develop a stewardship program to encourage residents to undertake environmental projects that protect soil, water, and air. This is being organized through the Perth County Agricultural Working Committee. That's been reformed for this term of council. So this stewardship program, it involves, first off, it involves community input sessions and a survey. So there will be 4 in-person sessions and 1 online session as well. The in-person input session for West Perth will be held February the 22nd, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. here at the municipal office. I'll quick shout out the other dates. Perth East is February the 17th, 1 o'clock to 3 p.m. in Milverton at the Perk Recreation Center. Perth South, February 23rd, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. in St. Paul's. I believe it's at the Optimist Hall. North Perth, February 28th, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Steve Kerr Memorial Complex. And the online session will be March 1st, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. You can learn more about it at www.perthcounty.ca/stewardship. And I encourage the public to attend and give your input, and we'll see where the program goes from there. Thank you.
So, and we just received that promo package, the social media kit for that this afternoon at about 5 o'clock. So we'll be starting to push that out with our socials as soon as we can get it out. So if you didn't get those dates down, that'll start to go out on our promotions starting tomorrow.
Okay, thanks, Dean, for those updates. I actually thought February the 15th, Ag Day, you were going to say hug a farmer. Didn't happen.
Hug a farmer is every day, all day, and twice on Sunday.
Okay, moving on. We have a couple notices of motion here. First one is from Councillor Fournier, and it is that the Council Municipality of West Perth directs staff to move the reporting of the consolidated financial statements to council from a monthly to a quarterly schedule, and to terminate the provision of the accounts payable listing report by email to council members. I guess we'll put it on the floor. Do you want to move that, Andrew?
Certainly. Yes.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Looking for a seconder for that particular motion. Councillor O'Donnell, you're willing to second that? Okay, so the notice of motion is on the floor. Discussion, I'll open it up to Andrew first, I guess, being that he moved it.
Just wanted to point out that so far as I know, these reports aren't sent out to most other councils on a monthly basis. And also that it's taking Wendy, I forget how many days she mentioned, but it was plural days to get it all put together. So if we could move that to, as mentioned in the motion, it would save her a lot of time, save us money, staff time that's not being spent on something repetitive that isn't done in other locations. So.
Councillor Rose?
If memory serves me right, we've gone through this a couple of years ago, and it was suggested the same thing, and didn't really work out that well. I think it's better that we keep an eye on things. It is our job to make sure everything is going right. Because if something goes wrong, then they say, well, council, why didn't you notice it? Why didn't you do this? And I think it's our job to help keep an eye on things. Not that I'm saying anything goes wrong, but it's just better if we can pick up any inconsistencies, or I just think it's worked better when we do it monthly.
Okay, anybody else? Councillor Foster?
Would I be able to bring Wendy forward to ask questions? Or is that?
Sure.
is it-
Yeah.
how does it-
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's fine.
She-
She's getting lots of exercise tonight.
It's because we love to see her so much. Nothing more important than the accountant.
So we've got Wendy here now. Your question.
I was wondering if we have any like any obligations that the province lays out for these reports, and also more on the time commitments involved.
Sure. So legislatively, there is no requirements. You do get the financial statements and the auditors present those. We are audited on an interim basis and then a final. So we get 2 audits. I would say my comment would be, as far as time commitment, it does take staff quite a bit of time to run it through. I'm hoping with FMW, it'll help. Won't have to kind of not rejig, but present the financial statements in a different way. So you'll see it the same way you see the budget. So it should be more consistent and quicker for us to print. I would recommend it quarterly only because I think we could do a better job in the finance department bringing it to you quarterly versus monthly. We could take more time to present it. So for example, the first 3 months, there is no budget to present to you. So we typically don't give you any monthly reports the first 3 months. And then we kind of struggle in June to give anything because we haven't done the levy yet. So then we're always saying in the report, the finance for the levy comes in August once it gets posted. So if we present something in, I'll say spring, it would be right after the budget. You would see the budget and you would see any expenses that we have incurred then. And then I would say if we did late fall, so then after the tax levy has been posted, then it would be, you would see it. Because if it's not posted, I'm just going to tell you that the revenue hasn't been pushed through on the financial statement, so it looks odd. And then give you another one kind of late into the year with all the capital projects. And I think with FMW, we can highlight the variances a little better and we can provide a better report. So that would be my comments.
Thank you. With that being said, can I ask if we can split the motion?
Just going to make a clarification and then I'll come back to you.
Okay.
And I'm just going to go back to Murray's comments. And I think what was discussed previously, and I'm not sure, I don't think it was the consolidated statements. I think it was the accounts and listing of all the accounts. The request was that we do away with the listing of the accounts. And I think that's what it was, but this isn't that. So what we're looking at is the consolidated reports. You're still looking at emailing the accounts monthly out, and I guess that's maybe up for discussion as well, but.
I know for us to put it together, there's quite a bit of kind of, it's not like we pay our bills just with checks. So we have to run 3 different reports and then we run through them and highlight the big expenditures. So we'll highlight the school board payment was paid that month, or we paid for this bridge. So stuff like that. We've sent you guys stuff on the hydro bills. I'm not sure if you want to see those or don't want to see those. But it would eliminate some of that if you want to just see certain kind of payments.
I would just like to add, because I think it's a bit of a fairer question for me to answer than Wendy. The last time we brought this to council, there are 2 parts to this. And the one part is the accounts, and Wendy has spoken to that. The part about we used to provide the check registry, and we used to put it in the consent agenda. I believe it was in the consent agenda, and for various sort of security reasons, with the way that our world has gone as far as fraud goes, we brought a recommendation to council to eliminate it, or at least change it to an email listing to the counselors rather than putting it in the consent agenda. It used to just be the check registry. The one you receive now is actually all payments, I believe, but it requires the assembly of information from the check registry and also e-transfers. Yeah, so it is a report to put together. It's completely discretionary about whether or not council receives this report. It's not a mandatory report, and it's been a longstanding practice in West Perth that has been eliminated in other areas. We didn't bring it to you this time. It came up as a result of a notice of motion. If you ask staff, I think that it's a practice that you can eliminate, but if you're not comfortable eliminating it, it's council's ability to allocate resources.
Okay, I'm going to still come back to you, Alec. I'm just going to ask if there's any other discussion on this topic. Deputy Mayor Kankowski.
No, thank you, your worship. Yeah, I would point out as a point of information under our procedural bylaw, the role of council. And I would highlight 8F, maintain the financial integrity of the municipality, and also 8E, ensure the accountability and transparency of the operations of the municipality. And the financial matters of the municipality matter a lot to our staff, to our council, but also to our citizens. And I think it's important that we maintain the status quo to demonstrate that, first of all, it does matter, but more importantly, it's important that we have a regular review of the numbers. I realize it takes a lot of time to do that, but there's value in seeing those numbers and monitoring those numbers, because after budget, we wouldn't, if this proposal were to go through after budget, very rarely would we see the numbers. And very rarely would we have an opportunity to look at those numbers together. And I think it's important that together as a group, council and staff, we have as many eyes looking at those numbers as often as possible to give ourselves the confidence, as well as the ratepayers and the citizens of the municipality, the confidence that we're keeping an eye on things and making sure that things are running the way we plan. We plan, we check, or we plan, we do, we check, and revise, and then we go through that cycle again. And I think that adopting this motion would weaken that effort severely.
Thanks, Dean. Anybody else? Councillor Fournier.
I'm just a bit confused by why we would be getting things like accounts payable or a monthly consolidated financial statement. As far as I understood, as a council, we hire professionals to handle these things on an ongoing basis for us. And in the code of conduct for council, 6, staff and council relations, 6.1, council as a whole approves budget, policy, and governance in the municipality through its bylaw and resolutions. Individual members do not direct or oversee the functions of the administration or staff of the municipality or a committee. It seems to me that scanning the accounts payable list is attempting to directly oversee part of the function of the municipality, or getting consolidated financial statements on a monthly basis. On a quarterly basis, sure, it's important, as my colleague says, to review that information. But there's at some point where you're overstepping as a council. You're trying to micromanage, when really it's Jeff's job, Dan's job, Wendy's job, and they're probably better at it. Well, with the exception of Dean, I seem to get the impression that you're fantastic with numbers, and Mr. Vink as well. I'm not. So that's what I would like to add.
Okay, any other discussion on this? And I will come back to Councillor Foster. Just for your information, I can't speak for other municipalities because I don't know what goes on there, but it seems that they don't do it. At the county, I know you don't get monthly list of monthly invoices. You get quarterly, I believe it is, consolidated statements. And very similar to here, like the percent of your budget that is left. So if there's no further discussion on this, I'll bring it back to Councillor Foster.
I'd like to split the motion in half. One half for the going to quarterly reporting and the other half for receiving email updates or not.
Floor is yours.
So I would like to put forward that we go ahead with quarterly because Wendy's indicated that she can do a better job and make it a better statement. But I would like to continue to receive the email updates, just so as Dean pointed out, there's just more eyes looking at it because mistakes can always happen, and just a second set of fresh eyes looking at it might catch a minor mistake before it happens.
Just so to clarify, we're going to break it down. So that your motion would be that the consolidated statements be done quarterly. Is that motion?
Shouldn't that be Andrew's decision?
Well,
Not Alex's decision?
Yeah.
I can assist you, Mayor McKenzie. I think what you want to do is just split the motion, and Councillor Foster has indicated that he intends to vote against the one and vote for the other. But if you hear them separately, then councillors will have their own individual opportunity. If you hear it in two parts, rather than hearing it as one consolidated where they have to choose.
I'm glad you cleared that up. So so we do have a motion on the floor though, don't we? And it was moved by Councillor Fournier and seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. So we have to deal with that motion first, right?
You're okay if council's okay with the division of the question, we can just proceed.
Okay.
If there's some doubt as to whether the division is, if everyone at the table is in favor of division of the question, then we should get a motion to divide the question or not.
Okay.
But if there's,
I'm not sure that I'm not sure that I quite understood what Alex was getting at, but I'm also not quite sure that it actually calls for a division of the motion. If I'm understanding correctly, Alex wanted, was leaning towards the consolidated financial statements going from monthly to quarterly and continuing to be emailed to us. Were you saying that you wanted to continue receiving a monthly accounts payable listing by email as well? Or a quarterly one? Okay. So you propose that we change the motion to they're both quarterly, they're both emails.
To split it in half, so there's no termination of any of our email stuff. It just all shifts from monthly to quarterly to clear up.
so if I can, what's on the floor right now is to take the motion, Counselor, that you made, and we're just gonna split it into two separate motions now. So the first motion would be that council direct staff to move the reporting of the consolidated financial statements from monthly to quarterly. Full stop. We would vote on that point, on that part of the motion. The second part then, after that vote is finished, we would vote on whether to terminate the provision of the accounts payable listing report by email to council members. Well, then you're amending a motion. You're doing more. So my suggestion at this point would be to either just split our motion and carry on with part A. Unless there's any objections, then I think we should get a vote on the split. Not hearing.
Yeah. Well, the only other option is you vote down Andrew's order of motion or notice of motion, and then come back with another motion with a split. But Dan has threw out that if council is in agreement, we split it and vote on one half and then vote on the other half. I'm just looking. I'm not sure we need a resolution or vote on that, but we need a consensus that everybody's in favor of doing that. And I'm not seeing consensus one way. We are. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so I think Councillor Duck, you're not sure? Okay, well, the end result should be the same, possibly.
I'll just clarify for
Yep, go ahead.
For you, Chair. So we've divided the motion. So the motion on the floor right now is that Council of the Municipality of West Perth direct staff to move the reporting of the consolidated financial statements to council from a monthly to a quarterly schedule.
So already, we take the original. Okay. Counselor, or Deputy Mayor Trinkowski.
Now, through you, your worship, I would request that this be a recorded vote for both parts of the motions presented, please.
Okay, so noted. And Dan, you'll,
I just want to clarify that the two motions will be as written, not the change to quarterly for the second motion with the email, which I think there was some confusion. I think these two motions are as written, but it's just splitting what was a single motion into two because it has two components.
of course, everybody knows, including me.
At this point, we're voting on that the council of the municipality of West Perth direct staff to move the reporting of the consolidated financial statements to council from a monthly to a quarterly schedule.
Okay, so that's the first part of the motion.
And Councillor Trentowski has requested a recorded vote.
Yes, and so we can do that. So I leave it with you, Counselor Vink.
Good, for the new councillors, could you explain a recorded vote?
Yeah, we've never had that.
Fair
So,
enough.
yeah, you can explain that.
So as clerk, I will call on the individual councillor in no particular order. And you will either give me a yay or a nay in favor or against the vote. And then the yay and nays are recorded in the minutes. Good.
Okay, do your magic.
Thank you. Councillor Rose, how do you vote?
Just to clarify, if I say nay, it stays as it is.
No, sorry, you're voting you're voting in favor or against. Sorry, I misunderstood your question. Yes, a nay, you would leave it as it is, or yeah. Sorry, I thought you were clarifying on the split vote. My
So the
apologies.
first motion, if you maybe should read that first motion again, that it deals with the, just so everyone's clear that it's dealing not with the email, it's dealing with the first half.
Correct, that the council of the municipality of West Perth direct staff to move the reporting of the consolidated financial statements to council from a monthly to a quarterly schedule. I'll carry on. Councillor O'Donnell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Chessel, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Fournier, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councillor Vink, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councillor Duck, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councillor Harold, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councillor Trentowski, how do you vote? Nay. Councillor Phelps, how do you vote?
Yay.
And your worship.
Yay. So what do you got?
Six to five. Yeas have it.
So now the second half of that. Oh, sorry, I was on when I thought I was on. So the second half of the question, I'm gonna get Dan to clarify that again as well.
So the motion on the floor right now is that council direct the municipality of West Perth to terminate the provision of the accounts payable listing report by email to council members.
So to clarify, there would be no mail out of the accounts, nothing.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's what a yay vote
Yep.
would support.
Yep.
Can we have this vote recorded too, please? Or does that count as the first? Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'd like to have it recorded.
Would you like to proceed with the?
Yes, it's been, is there any clarification needed here or questions? Okay. Oh, Andrew?
Could an individual counselor still request a list of the accounts payable if they were curious at some point of Wendy? Would you provide that?
Like, we can provide it.
If they would provide it to any individual, would they not still have to go through the same amount of work then to produce the report? Okay, thanks. That was my question.
Okay. So I'm going to let you just clarify it. So,
Yeah.
One more time.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth direct staff to terminate the provision of the accounts payable listing report by email to council members, and it's been requested for a recorded vote.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mayor McKenzie, how do you vote?
Geez, no, I was figuring I was going to last year. Nay.
Councillor Phelps, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councillor Trentowski, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councillor Harold, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councillor Duck, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councillor Vink, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councillor Fournier, how do you vote?
Yay.
Sorry, was that 80? Yeah, thank you. Councillor Chessel, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster?
Nay.
Councillor O'Donnell?
Nay.
And Councillor Rose?
Nay.
The nays have it.
Okay, so the end result is we'll have the consolidated statements quarterly, but we'll still have the monthly email going out.
Would it be okay to ask if you guys want to get the bell bills and the utility bills, or would you rather it just be, so basically our PAP listing includes that. It would be all like hydro bills, utility bills. For clarification on our side.
Could you turn it into an automated process so that whatever is dumped out, just dump across to us? So there has to be some way to automate it, Wendy. In my mind, that a half of the bank rec would be all the outs, as an example, an automatic all the outs.
So in Keystone, how we have to process it is we have to look up the last number that was issued to you guys. So we have to record that. And then we have to go in and print off the month, how many payments were made in the month, and we take the end number. And then we have to go back into the system and put the registry for the beginning and the end just for checks. And then we have to do that again for EFT and again in for PAP. So it's 3 steps for each of the payment process to pull that out. And then we review that list. We highlight anything that is higher in that month, and then it's compiled into an email and sent out.
If I may then skip the bell and the hydro bills, but EFTs, I'd say keep that one. So, or
Consensus around the table? That's fine. Okay. I think. All right, good. Okay. All right, moving on. So I also have a notice of motion here, and I'll just read a little bit of background here. And then we'll follow up with what you want to do, I guess. So Hugh Alden Eddicoffer was born in 1928 and worked as a retail merchant in the family clothing business that was downtown in Mitchell for more than 75 years. He served on Mitchell Town Council from 1958 to 1961, including 2 years as mayor. He unsuccessfully ran for the Ontario Legislature in 1963. He ran again in 1967 and won by 187 votes. He never lost another election and remained our MPP for Perth for 23 years until he retired in 1990. Eddie Coffer served as Deputy Speaker from 1977 to 1981. He was appointed Speaker of the Legislature on June the 4th, 1985, with the support of the leaders of all three political parties represented in the legislature. He was generally regarded as an impartial office holder. He was reappointed as Speaker in 1987 and continued serving as Speaker of the House until his retirement in 1990. Everyone in Perth County can be proud and thankful for his exemplary service to the town, the county, and the province that he loves so dearly. Following his retirement, he and his wife Nancy built and sold the Forest Glen condominiums located close to the Mitchell Golf and Country Club. From 1971 to 1981, Harry Parrott, another politician with Logan and Mitchell roots, also held predominant portfolios in the legislature, one as Minister of the Environment. He was recognized with a pumping facility being named after him by the former town of Mitchell. I think it would be only fitting and appropriate, and I would suggest with council's blessing that we name the boardroom immediately behind me here in our new administration building after the former mayor and Speaker of the House, the Hugh Eddie Coffer boardroom. And I will just leave it at that. And I can move that. I was told I can move that. So I will move that, get it on the floor. If we have a seconder, take your pick. I'll take Councillor Rose, I guess, this time. Any discussion on that? If not, are we ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Oh, that went quicker than the first one. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Now, under other business, Councillor Phelps has a item here.
Just a quick, so the 150th Homecoming Committee, Mitchell Homecoming will be week of July 29th to August 5th, 2024 will be the 150th anniversary of Mitchell. Actually 167 since it's been a village, but 150 when it was incorporated as a town. And I had a whole bunch of notes, but I'm going to keep this short because this night's way too long. Thursday, March 2nd, 2023 at 7:30, we're having an open house and we've got the webpage, thanks to our office staff over here, up and with dates on it. And our plan is to fill in. I'm having a meeting with Andy Bader tomorrow. He's going to put a little article in the paper announcing that. So it's for volunteers and other committee members. And to run this thing, we need a bit of money, seed money. So I was wondering that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth approve a startup budget of 10,000 for the 150th Homecoming Committee out of this year's budget, with the intention that we will fundraise and pay that back, and any monies made will go to the pavilion.
So this is a notice of motion. And so that'll come back at our next meeting for full discussion. And for what it's worth, if my memory serves me right, and sometimes it doesn't, but I think there was 20,000 for the last one. And we could certainly do that and put 10,000 over 2 years if we needed to.
Right, and that would be, yeah. And I didn't know if we made a motion for this year and then one for next year.
Well, we can word it and just put 10 in this year and then another 10 for next year's budget. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we also have a notice here from Councillor Fournier.
Just for a very, very brief explanation, in the interests of continuing to work on food security, which is one of the reasons why I became councillor, I approached the management at the business that I work at here in town, Durasol. It's the big concrete plant on the edge of town. I wanted them to use some of their unused green space to make a garden for the employees of the facility, and also so that we could be donating to the local food banks at harvest time with any extra produce that we might have. I approached Scott's Greenhouses here in town. I don't know if any of you guys know Tony or not. He's fun. He's agreed to donate expertise, a couple of hours of just expert eyes on site, what we should plant, where it should go, what it should look like, and also some of the ground cloths from his greenhouse, so that we don't have to do any extra work. Durasol management is putting some money into the project, though they haven't exactly determined how much that's going to be. But I would, I think Kirk Hobson has the language here, correct? I would like to put forward the motion that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth direct the treasurer to include $500 for this particular project. This is more of a pilot project. This is not, I'm not intending this as a one-off. I'd like to see if we can use unused green space in various businesses and various organizations around here for precisely this. Although this says here community garden. I already asked about community gardens. I'd prefer to think of this as a garden in the community rather than a community garden, if you see what I mean. So that's my motion.
Okay, and it'll come back at our next meeting. We can certainly discuss it then. But there are, as you just indicated, community gardens within the municipality. So we'll talk about that at the next meeting. Any other business? We don't have a closed session, thank goodness. Confirmatory bylaw. The bylaw number 6, 2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council Corporation of the Municipality of West Perth be read a first and second time the 6th day of February. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And that bylaw number 6 be read a third time and finally passed. Moved and seconded, Councillor Phelps and Councillor Foster again. All those in favor? That is carried. And finally, a motion to adjourn at 10:21. Councillor Phelps and Councillor Chessel, all in favor? We are adjourned. That's a later one tonight.